Chapter 1794. Other than these three powerful demon kings, there were more than 10 other terrifying demon beasts. They roared and attacked fiercely. In an instant, the entire void boiled and was drowned by this violent energy. In front of them, the White Bone Palace was filled with an ancient aura. At this moment, demonic runes appeared under the huge White Bone Palace. Then, a white light shone and spread in all directions. The terrifying energy that filled the sky was completely suppressed by this white light. Seeing this, Lin Xian and the others' pupils shrank. They could not believe that this White Bone Palace was too terrifying. This was because these demon kings had surpassed the almighty level and were extremely powerful. With so many demon kings attacking together, they could overturn the sky and earth, but they could not shake the White Bone Palace. What was this White Bone Palace? Was it really the tomb of a saint? The six-armed godly ape, the crocodile god, and the other demon kings roared angrily when they saw that their attacks were ineffective. However, they seemed to be afraid and did not dare to get too close to the White Bone Palace. It was as if there was something in the White Bone Palace that was threatening them. However, their attacks did not stop. Intense collisions erupted in the sky, and terrifying energy swept in all directions. The ones who suffered the most were the human kings. Although they were extremely powerful, they were as weak as ants in front of the terrifying demon kings and the White Bone Palace. Many kings were even hit by the energy waves and exploded. Even more warriors were red in the face as they resisted with all their might. At this moment, the few kings who were secretly adding fuel to the fire had ugly expressions on their faces. If they had not attacked, there would not have been so much blood, and the sea of bones would not have changed. However, it was all too late. There was no point in regretting it. On Lin Xian's side, he also propped up the dragon sword domain to resist. He was in a relatively good situation. Although it was dangerous, all the energy waves were cut apart by his sword chi. None of them reached him. However, Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn. This was because they could not go on like this. Brother Lin, the void rippled, and Goose Santong appeared in front of Lin Xian. His face was pale, and he was injured. After Lin Xian left, he was targeted by a mysterious expert. The other parties seemed to want to capture him. Fortunately, he was skilled in spatial techniques and could escape. Later on, the demon kings exploded, forcing the mysterious expert to retreat. It could be said that Gu Santong's experience was even more dangerous than Lin Xian's. Now, the two of them worked together to resist the attacks from the surroundings and achieved obvious results. The other kings also began to resist, but at this moment, the situation changed again. In the sky, the terrifying six-armed godly ape suddenly dived down and landed on the ground. The golden eyes scanned the surroundings before a cold voice resounded. "Humans, enter the ancient city." This voice was like a clap of thunder, reverberating in the sky. What? Enter the ancient city? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Then, their faces turned ugly. There was a city nearby, and that was the White Bone Palace. Could it be that they had entered? Are you kidding me? Isn't that courting death? Sure enough, someone immediately counterattacked. However, the answer was a golden palm. 3 of the kings were instantly smashed into a bloody mist. They could not resist at all. Seeing this, everyone's scalps went numb. It was too terrifying. In front of the golden ape, even the almighties were not strong enough. You can choose to resist, but there is only one outcome. You will be killed. Or you can enter the ancient city obediently. If you are lucky, you may live. Lucky? What's so lucky about that? One of the elders gritted his teeth and roared. Once they stepped into the Palace of Bones, they would be turned into a pile of bones. Don't worry, that won't happen now. Go in. The cold voice sounded again. Then, flames appeared on the golden ape's body, and spread in all directions. If these humans tried to escape, the godly ape would attack mercilessly. Kid, what do we do? Do you want to break out of the encirclement? The dark red divine dragon asked through voice transmission. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. He had thought of this idea as well. However, it seemed to him that it was simply too dangerous. The golden ape in front of him was too terrifying. It was definitely stronger than the ordinary almighties. Its strength was unimaginable. Moreover, there were so many monster kings around. Where could he escape to? He might be killed in the end. Why not take the risk and enter the Palace of Bones? Judging from the situation, the monster kings wanted them to enter the Palace of Bones. They did not know what would happen after they entered. However, it would not be like the last time. They would not be turned into a pile of bones before even entering the Palace of Bones. The others looked pale. It seemed that they had no choice but to go in. Therefore, someone gritted his teeth and rushed into the sky. Soon, they arrived above the Palace of Bones. Everyone held their breaths. However, they did not turn into bones like the last time. Instead, the godly ape entered the Palace of Bones directly. It's really possible. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. They felt that this might be an opportunity. After all, they might be killed if they stayed here. They might as well go in and take the risk. Now, they knew that the Palace of Bones was not ordinary. There might be great opportunities inside. Thinking of this, they did not hesitate and rushed into the sky. Let's go. Lin Xian and Gu Santong looked at each other. Then, the three of them followed the crowd into the Palace of Bones. Buzz. Just as they stepped into the Palace of Bones, a strange energy came out and forced Lu Mingyue out of the black earth. She could not stay any longer. What's going on? As soon as Lu Mingyue came out, she saw the giant bone city not far in front of her. She was so scared that her face turned pale. She looked at Lin Xian and gritted her teeth. Damn you, are you crazy? How dare you come here? If you want to turn into a pile of bones, I won't stop you. But don't stop me. To be honest, she was really scared. The scene of the Monster Kings being killed by the Palace of Bones was still deeply imprinted in her mind. Now that Lin Xian had brought her to the Palace of Bones, how could she not be scared? However, Lin Xian said coldly, "Shut up. If you want to die, you can go down. I won't stop you. But if you want to live, you have to stay by my side, obediently. Of course, as a servant, you have to have the consciousness of a servant. Otherwise, don't expect me to save you." Chapter 1795. Lin Xian's voice was cold. He didn't want to kill Lu Mingyue, because holding a person who was qualified to become the saintess of all beginnings was more valuable than killing her. Lu Mingyue looked around and found that all the kings had come to the front of the giant bone city. She immediately understood. These people had no choice but to enter the giant bone city. But if they went down now, they might not survive. Not to mention that her power was sealed now. Even if she was at her peak, she couldn't withstand a blow from the six-armed ape. Seeing that she didn't speak, Lin Xian waved his hand, and a sword light wrapped around Lu Mingyue. "I don't know why, but you can't hide now, and can only follow me. Then follow me closely, and don't get lost. This sword light can protect you." At the same time, Lin Xian also unlocked some of her seals, giving her some power. But it was impossible for her to escape. "Don't think about running away, or you'll end up miserable," Lin Xian warned again. Lu Mingyue also knew the current situation. She couldn't wait to follow Lin Xian, because Lin Xian was powerful and had the combination of Gu Santong and the Crimson Dragon. Even in danger, her survival rate was greatly increased. She wouldn't leave now. In the next moment, Lin Xian and the others stepped into the Palace of Bones. The giant bone city was extremely terrifying and emitted a monstrous aura. Two tall, white bone doors were completely opened, revealing the scene inside. Not far in front, there were figures wearing ancient battle robes. Each of them had great spiritual power. However, there was no vitality in them. Lin Xian and the others knew that these were the funerary objects of some of the most powerful figures in the world. They glanced around and found that there were many of these burial objects. If they were resurrected, they might completely overturn this world. But fortunately, when they entered, the terrifying figures in front of them didn't wake up. They stood there like statues. When they passed by, their bodies began to tremble. They could sense a terrifying aura emanating from those figures. It was like a divine sword, extremely fierce. At this moment, the demon kings in the sky began to attack again. Streaks of sharp energy slammed into the white bone city. There were even a few terrifying beams of light that blasted towards the white bone door. In the blink of an eye, it passed through the two gates and blasted into the city of bones. Not good. Many kings were alarmed. They realized that the terrifying beams of light would probably affect them. Therefore, in the next moment, these people quickly ran inside. The entire white bone city began to emit a terrifying light. Then, those statue-like figures actually came to life. Ka, ka, ka. The kings who had been buried with Qin went in began to emit their auras, and their bodies began to move like wooden puppets. Although it was a little stiff, it carried a terrifying power with it. Boom, boom. They were rapidly attacking outside. Terrifying saber lights, palm shadows, and sword chi streaked across the sky, fighting against the demon kings outside. He's revived. When everyone saw this scene, their scalps went numb. Lin Xian also frowned. This scene was too strange. Could it be that these people didn't die? Or were they already dead? And now they're revived in some way? He couldn't figure it out, but he realized that this white bone city was full of mysteries. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, more than 10 attacks landed near them, and then exploded. Terrifying energy swept towards them. Lin Xian and the others quickly retreated. They knew that it was no longer safe to go out from the entrance. They had to go inside. Moreover, some of the kings had already done so. They realized that the items buried with Qin, Wentian wouldn't attack them for the time being. Therefore, they became bolder and ran into the white bone city. Let's go too, Lin Xian said in a low voice. Then, He Gu Santong, the Crimson Dragon, and Lu Mingyue followed the others into the city. This was because it was too dangerous. They could be affected by the shock waves of the energy at any time. The group of people walked in and realized that the inside of the white bone city was no different from an ordinary city. Buildings and streets crisscrossed the area. However, the buildings here were more ancient and full of the style of the Antiquity Age. Moreover, there was dust and broken walls everywhere. There were even many spider webs. It was obvious that no one had been here for countless years. Even though Lin Xian and the other kings were walking on the streets, they still felt that the entire city was filled with a strong sense of death. It was like a dead city. The terrifying attacks outside were still going on. It seemed like those kings of monsters were trying to destroy the White Bone City. However, the White Bone City was too terrifying. It was too strange. It was not damaged at all. In fact, it didn't even shake. If they hadn't heard the deafening sounds and the sky full of light outside, they would have thought that they were dreaming. Whoosh! Suddenly, the sky above them darkened. It was as if a dark cloud had covered the sky. In the next moment, everyone looked up. They saw a yellow figure, like a golden mountain, appear above them. It formed a huge projection. The six-armed godly ape. Everyone cried out in surprise when they saw this. They didn't expect the six-armed godly ape to appear above the White Bone City. What was it trying to do? Boom. Yes, it was indeed the six-armed godly ape. As soon as it appeared, it waved its 6 arms and formed 6 huge golden light pillars. Then it shot downward. Boom, boom, boom. This time, the light pillars finally reached the interior of the White Bone City. The terrifying light pillars hit the interior of the white bone city, causing the entire city to tremble. Even the ground cracked, and the surrounding buildings were pierced through. Oh no! At this moment, the surviving kings felt their scalps go numb. They didn't gather together anymore. Instead, they fled in all directions. Everyone wanted to reach a safe place to escape this disaster. Lin Xian's expression was cold. He used the dragon sword realm to envelop everyone. Then he turned into an aurora and rushed into the distance. In front of him was a disciple of the Five Elements sect. When he saw Lin Xian, he immediately felt a cold wind, because Lin Xian and the Five Elements sect had a feud. However, now was not the time for revenge. Boy, I saw this place. Hurry up and get out of here. After saying that, the disciple of the Five Elements sect snorted and entered an ancient house in front of him. That ancient house was already very dilapidated. It was covered in dust and cobwebs. However, at this moment, it had become a safe shelter. That was because everyone realized that the older the house, the less likely it was to be damaged by this kind of attack. Perhaps there was a mysterious force protecting these ancient houses. Chapter 1796. They realized that the older the house, the more resistant it was to such attacks. Perhaps there was some mysterious power protecting these ancient houses. That Five Elements sect's disciple quickly entered the ancient house in front of him. Moreover, he released a ray of Five Elements power and sealed the door. It seemed that he did not want Lin Xian and the rest to enter. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes when he saw this. Lu Mingyue said anxiously, "What should we do? Should we force our way in? We have more people anyway." Gu Santong shook his head and said, "There is no need to waste time fighting. There are many houses around here. We can look for others. Let's go in another direction." Lin Xian said. He did not want to fight now. The appearance of the giant bone city and the appearance of the Demon King were all caused by the blood that was spilled when they fought. He didn't know what would happen if he fought in this city of bones and caused a terrifying amount of blood to flow again. Who knew what would happen? It might lead to something even more terrifying. Therefore, Lin Xian did not want to fight now. It was better to avoid this disaster first. Lin Xian and the rest turned around and prepared to leave to look for other houses. However, just as they turned around, they heard a scream coming from the house in front of them. The scream was very pitiful, and it was filled with fear. It was as if the person had encountered something terrible. Lin Xian and the rest stopped in their tracks when they heard the scream. They turned around and looked in front of them. Previously, a disciple of the Five Elements sect had entered the ancient house. Why was he screaming now? Was he under attack? However, other than him, no one else had entered the house. Lu Mingyue was also scared out of her wits when she heard the scream. No matter how powerful she was still a woman. She was terrified when she saw something unknown. Is there someone else inside? Or is there something we don't know? Lin Xian and the rest were shocked. They looked in front of them and decided to take a look. When they arrived at the house, they suddenly heard crunching sounds coming from inside. It sounded like someone was gnawing on bones. Their scalps went numb when they heard the sound. Lu Mingyue's face turned pale, and her eyes were filled with fear. That was because the sound was simply too strange. Combined with the scream from before, an extremely terrifying scene appeared in everyone's hearts. "Open it and take a look." Lin Xian raised his hand and was ready to blast the Five Elements power away. He wanted to see what kind of monster was in the house. However, the sound of gnawing disappeared in the next moment. The door of the house creaked open. The Five Elements power disappeared, and the Five Elements sect disciple walked out. However, his complexion was somewhat pale, and his hair was rather messy. Other than that, nothing else could be seen. "Are you okay?" Gu Santong asked. As for the five elements sex disciple, he coldly snorted, "What could possibly happen to me? How ridiculous!" Hearing this, Lin Xian and Gu Santong frowned. Lu Mingyue's pupils constricted. That was because when she looked through the five elements sex disciple, she saw a pool of blood on the floor of the ancient house. It was bright red and had not solidified. It was obvious that it had just fallen. What's with the blood? There was a battle here. Lu Mingyue was shocked. She quickly sent a voice transmission to Lin Xian. Although she had been captured by Lin Xian, they were now in the same boat. Moreover, she had been sealed and did not have much power. Therefore, she needed Lin Xian's protection. She immediately told Lin Xian about the eerie situation. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He also realized that there was blood inside. However, the five elements sect disciple did not seem to have any abnormalities. Therefore, he could only give up. He shook his head and left with the rest of the group. However, at this moment, the five elements sect disciple said, "If you go out now, you will die. In this ancient city, only these houses are safe. The other streets are not safe at all. You will most likely be killed by the energy." "What do you mean?" Lin Xian turned around and asked coldly. The five elements sect disciple quickly said, "Nothing. This house is bigger anyway. Why don't you all come in?" Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. This was because his attitude was different from before. After all, he had a grudge against the five elements sect. Furthermore, the five elements sect's disciple had displayed killing intent towards him. If it was not for the fact that the place was not suitable, the other party would have already attacked. However, the other party had invited him to hide in the house. It was too eerie. However, in the next moment, he narrowed his eyes. So be it. He was not afraid of the other party's tricks. Therefore, he called Gu Santong, Lu Mingyue, and the Crimson Dragon. Then, the group entered the house. As for the five elements sect's disciple, a strange smile appeared on the corners of his mouth as he looked at their backs. In the next moment, he also strode into the house and closed the door. Then, he used a force to seal it. The house was not big. It was a very ordinary room with some tables and chairs. However, it was very old and had a thick layer of dust on it. In addition, there were some miscellaneous items around. Most of them were very old. Moreover, the inside of the house was very dark, especially when the five elements sect disciple closed the door. The inside of the house became even darker. It could even be described as pitch black. However, Lin Xian and the others were all King Realm experts. This little bit of darkness was nothing to them. Therefore, they did not take it to heart. They sat there and waited quietly. They could even vaguely hear the continuous explosions outside. The five elements sect disciple had unknowingly circled behind them. The eerie smile on his face became even more obvious. There was even a dark red light in his eyes. Boom! Another earth-shattering sound was heard. Then Lin Xian felt the entire house begin to shake. Needless to say, the attacks of the peerless monsters must have hit the inside of the giant city. Everyone was shocked. They did not know when the attacks would stop. However, no one noticed the smile on the five elements sect disciple's face and the red light in his eyes. In the next moment, something strange happened. The five elements sect disciple attacked decisively. His palm carried a terrifying storm as it blasted forward. His target was obvious. It was the sealed Lu Mingyue. Lu Mingyue felt the energy behind her and screamed. She suddenly turned around. At the same time, a chaotic light appeared between her eyebrows and slashed forward. Boom! The chaotic light collided with the terrifying energy and caused an explosion. Lu Mingyue's body retreated like a fallen leaf. Chapter 1797. Although he was hit, he still managed to dodge the fatal blow. The light of chaos was her life-saving measure. It was set up by the elders of the sect. It could help her dodge a fatal blow. She did not use it even when she was fighting Lin Xian. She did not expect to use it now. Lin Xian, Gu Santong, and the Crimson Dragon were also shocked. Powerful energy surged from their bodies as they stared at the disciple of the Five Elements sect. Gu Santong waved his hand and used the power of space to pull Lu Mingyue to his side. Furthermore, he gave her a few medicinal pills and told her to consume them to heal her injuries. On the other hand, Lin Xian's eyes were cold as he stared at the other party. He said coldly, "You really are up to no good. How dare you attack us? However, I really don't understand. Are you out of your mind? How dare you attack us alone? We'll know if we can defeat you after we try." The disciple of the Five Elements sect had a strange smile on his face. A dark red light bloomed in his eyes. "Not good. Kid, be careful. He's not the disciple of the Five Elements sect." The Crimson Dragon quickly reminded him when he saw this. Not the disciple of the Five Elements sect? Lin Xian was shocked. He did not know what that meant. However, the disciple of the Five Elements sect suddenly attacked. His palm transformed into a five-colored palm and slammed down at Lin Xian, covering the sky and earth. The power of the Five Elements gathered in his palm, forming a terrifying light storm. The disciple of the Five Elements sect was very decisive. He did not hesitate and attacked Lin Xian. To be honest, Lin Xian was also surprised. His name had spread throughout the primeval forest. Other than the top few prodigies, no one dared to attack him. Now, a martial artist of the Five Elements sect dared to attack him. It seemed that he did not know what was good for him. Humph! With a cold harumph, Lin Xian threw out a punch. Bang! The fist and palm collided. A low sound was heard. However, this time, Lin Xian was even more surprised. He even showed a trace of doubt. He realized that his opponent could actually fight against him. This was simply inconceivable. One had to know that his current combat strength belonged to the top batch here. Even the sealed Almighties were no match for him. But now the other party was actually able to contend against him, which really surprised him. The Five Elements sect's disciple was also taken aback. A red light flashed in his eyes. "Brat, I didn't expect you to have some skills. You were actually able to block my move." Upon hearing this, Lin Xian frowned and said coldly, "You're not from the Five Elements sect. Who are you?" The people of the Five Elements sect did not dare to speak to him like this, but the other party did not seem to care at all. Therefore, he was definitely not from the Five Elements sect. Humph! Dead people don't need to know so much. The Five Elements sect's disciple coldly snorted and once again moved towards Lin Xian. As the two exchanged blows, each strike was like a clap of thunder. The more Lin Xian thought about it, the more shocked he became. His opponent's battle prowess was too strong, and he couldn't help but take this seriously. So, in the next moment, he pulled out the 9 Serenity's demon sword. Sword Chi soared into the sky, and then he stabbed out. Buzz! A resplendent light shocked the sky. This sword was extremely sharp. Clang! The black demon sword seemed to have collided with a mountain. It pierced through the opponent's palm, leaving a bloody hole on it. "You're courting death." The Five Elements sect's disciple's expression finally changed. He did not expect the other party's sword Chi to be so terrifying that it could pierce through his palm. So, in the next moment, he roared angrily. The power in his body suddenly erupted and surged fiercely towards Lin Xian and the others. Lin Xian's expression was solemn. He retreated rapidly and completely left the ancient house, arriving on the street. "Brat, you dare to hurt me? I'll kill you." The Five Elements sect's disciple's expression was ferocious. His eyes were emitting a red light, and the scene was extremely terrifying. You're not from the Five Elements sect. Who are you? Lin Xian pointed his sword forward and asked coldly. He realized that the other party was too strange, especially that pair of eyes. They were even more terrifying than a malicious spirit. The people of the Five Elements sect should not have such an aura. Moreover, there were screams and sounds of bones being chewed in the ancient house. He guessed that the Five Elements sect's disciple had been killed long ago. As for this person, who knew what he was, hearing Lin Xian's cold roar, the Five Elements sect's disciple sneered and did not answer. His 5 fingers formed a claw, and the wound quickly healed. Then he slapped forward. Boom! The terrifying palm landed, and the surrounding void cracked. Even the entire space trembled violently. The Five Elements sect's disciple's palm shone brightly as he grabbed at Lin Xian. Humph, if you don't speak, I'll beat you until you reveal your true form. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He waved the 9 darkness demon sword and quickly attacked. The terrifying sword Qi was like a huge black mountain. It fell quickly and collided with the opponent's palm. Boom, boom, boom. An earth-shattering sound rang out, and the entire street shook violently. The two of them each took a step back, and their eyes were filled with shock. Not only Lin Xian, but even Gu Santong, Lu Mingyue, and the Crimson Dragon were shocked. They knew of Lin Xian's strength. He was a terrifying expert, and yet he was able to fight to a standstill. They had to admit that it was too shocking. What a troublesome person. But do you think that I can't deal with you just like that? Lin Xian sneered. The sword Qi on his body surged, and the dragon sword territory quickly appeared and shrouded the opponent. Then, thousands of sword Qi turned into flowing light and pierced forward. This attack was too terrifying. The sword Qi that filled the sky was extremely sharp. They were densely packed, and they blew up everything in front of them. Roar! In front of them, in the explosion of the energy vortex, a piercing scream rang out. The scream was ear-piercing, and it made everyone's scalp tingle. In the next moment, a figure walked out of the storm. However, the clothes on his body were still torn. Not only that, there were many wounds on his body, revealing his dark skin. The Five Elements sect disciple grabbed with his hand and tore off the skin on his body. Then, a piece of human skin was torn off. What? Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Lu Mingyue's face turned pale, and she felt like vomiting, because it was too disgusting. Can you imagine someone tearing off all the skin on their body with 5 fingers? That's what it was like now. Indeed, the Five Elements sect disciple in front of them was no longer a human. He had turned into a ghost. At this moment, his body was red and black, and there was even blood flowing from his body. He looked like a monster. The human skin fell to the ground, stained with blood. It was extremely strange. Roar! The eyes of the ghost in front of them shone with a terrifying red light. His entire body was covered with an eerie ghostly aura. It was extremely terrifying, and it made one's scalp tingle. You're not human. Chapter 1798. You really aren't humans. Lin Xian was shocked. His expression was cold as he realized that his guess was right. The other party was not a disciple of the Five Elements sect, but an unknown creature. It was very likely that it was a creature that originally existed in the Whitebone City. Thinking of this, his face became serious because the other party's strength was not weak at all. Now that it had removed its disguise, how strong would it be? This Whitebone City was indeed too strange. It actually had such a malicious spirit. Roar! The malicious spirit roared and turned into a bolt of lightning again, pouncing toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian also used the Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps. His body was like lightning as he rushed upward. The two of them fought fiercely. Their battle was very fierce and fast. From afar, it looked like 2 flashes of light were constantly colliding in the air. Boom! Suddenly, Lin Xian's figure flashed. The nine darkness demonic sword in his hand was emitting a dazzling light of thunder and fire. Thunder and fire, the most yang energy in the world, had a strong restraining effect on ghost martial artists. Now that Lin Xian used it, he naturally wanted to restrain the other party. Whoosh! As the sword slashed down, the thunder and fire sword Qi flashed quickly and fiercely slashed down from the sky, bringing with it a strong storm. There was a strong yang energy. It was as if it could destroy all ghosts and demons. Seeing that the sword was filled with the most yang energy, the malicious spirit's face changed. The red light in his eyes shone even brighter. His body quickly dodged, forming a pitch-black space around him. Whoosh, whoosh. This black domain was very strange. It had a cold aura of death and could even devour everything. Puff! The thunder and fire sword slashed down and collided with the black domain, making the sound of ice and fire mixing. As for the surrounding void, it started to vibrate violently like a painting. Roar! Suddenly, a terrifying crack was cut open in the pitch-black domain, revealing the malicious spirit inside. In the next moment, the sword Qi slashed on the malicious spirit's body, tearing a terrifying crack open. Drip, drip, black blood fell from the sky and dripped on the ground. The malicious ghost let out a furious roar and transformed into a dark cloud. It instantly fled into the distance and disappeared. Lin Xian looked at the fleeing figure and did not give chase. Instead, he frowned. This was simply too shocking. What kind of creature could have black blood? He didn't know. However, he knew that the other party was definitely not human. Everyone, be careful. This place is too strange. Don't be careless, Gu Santong said in a low voice. However, at this time, several miserable cries sounded from the distance again. They were extremely mournful, tearing through the void. Hearing this voice, the few of them frowned and quickly ran into the distance. In the next moment, they saw a king with half his body torn apart and covered in blood. He was being gnawed to death by a pitch-black monster. It was the same situation again. From the looks of it, there was more than one malicious ghost-like monster. It was spread throughout the entire Whitebone City. It wasn't safe outside, and it wasn't safe inside the city either. Boom! A great battle erupted because more than one malicious spirit-like creature appeared. Their figures appeared on several streets. Among them, some of the weaker kings were directly killed by the malicious ghosts. The more powerful king realm cultivators would fight against them. One of the battles was extremely intense. It was a human who was surrounded by dazzling halos. It was as if he had been blessed by the gods and was extremely terrifying. His entire body was surging with holy light. Each ray was like a monstrous wave. The Alcade Saint. Many kings saw this scene from afar and exclaimed in surprise. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes and looked from afar. He had to admit that the other party was indeed an extremely powerful figure. Even from so far away, he could feel the overwhelming aura from the other party. The palm shadow contained a terrifying power that could easily shatter a 6-star king. After beating the malicious ghost away with one palm, the Alcade Saint seemed to have sensed Lin Xian's gaze and turned his head to look at him. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Their gazes clashed in the air, causing small cracks to appear in the void. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. There was someone who could compete with the Alcade Saint. This was unbelievable. The next moment, they turned their heads to look. When they saw Lin Xian, everyone was extremely shocked because they also recognized Lin Xian. This kid is too terrifying. He can actually compete with the Alcade Saint. This is a god of slaughter. Don't provoke him. Discussions broke out one after another. They had seen Lin Xian's means. Previously, Lu Mingyue had led so many kings to chase after him, but they were all killed by him. One could imagine how terrifying he was. They were even secretly calling Lin Xian the god of slaughter. The Alcade Saint was also surprised. He did not expect that the other party could resist his gaze. However, the next moment he turned his head with a cold expression. His entire body flickered with light and turned into a stream of light, disappearing from the street. Apart from the Alcade Saint, the others were also fighting because those malicious ghosts were very strange. Most of them had crawled out of the ancient houses. Boom! Another earth-shattering sound rang out, attracting everyone's attention. Who was he? How could he fight two malicious ghosts? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He seemed to be the genius of the Yi family. So powerful. One person fighting two malicious ghosts. This means that he's even more powerful than the Alcade Saint, right? How can he be more powerful than the Alcade Saint? The Alcade Saint didn't encounter two malicious ghosts. Otherwise, he would definitely be able to deal with them easily. Discussions broke out one after another. Obviously, they were also extremely shocked by the scene in front of them. Lin Xian also turned his head and saw Yi Wudao. The expert in front of him, who was fighting two malicious ghosts, was Yi Wudao. There was no bright light on his body, and his fist technique was very simple. However, the effect was indeed very terrifying. He punched out, simple and unadorned. However, the entire void exploded, and even the malicious ghost's black palm exploded. When everyone saw this scene, they were all stunned and could not believe it. They had seen how powerful the malicious ghost was. It was terrifying. Ordinary six-star kings were not a match for it at all, but now someone could actually injure it with a punch. This was too shocking. What kind of fist technique is that? It's so terrifying. Who knows? This fist technique looks very ordinary, but I didn't expect it to be so powerful. Many kings exclaimed in surprise. However, there were some almighties who frowned. He's a disciple of the Yi family. The Yi family is an ancient family. They even had a great emperor. Yes, even in the era where there were no great emperors, there were saint physiques. I just don't know if he has such a physique. Chapter 1799. What a holy physique! Hearing this, everyone's scalps went numb and their faces were filled with shock. However, an elder shook his head. That can't be. That kind of physique is extremely rare. Even the Yi family has only produced a few in all these years. If there was one, would the Yi family be willing to let him come to such a dangerous place? Is it dangerous here? I'm afraid that before entering, no one knew that this place was dangerous. They all thought that there were countless treasures in this mystic world. Someone sneered. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. Indeed, no one knew that this mystic world was extremely dangerous. Only when they entered did they realize that they had entered a place of great danger. Could it be that this person really was the holy physique of the Yi family? A holy physique. Hearing this, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He had also heard of this physique. It was an extremely terrifying physique in the eastern wilderness. It was rumored that this mysterious physique not only had immense strength, but also extremely strong defense. It had incredible magical powers. He did not expect Yi Wudao to have such a physique. Beside him, Gu Santong's eyes flashed, and he was extremely serious. As a disciple of a clan of the ancients, he knew how terrifying this physique was. At the same time, he whispered to himself, "Our Gu family also has a divine physique. I wonder if it's a holy physique or a holy physique. Which one is stronger?" Other than the Alcade Saint and Yi Wudao, there were a few people who displayed even more terrifying power. At first glance, it was obvious that they were almighties whose cultivation had been suppressed. One of them was wrapped in a silver light. It was impossible to see whether he was real or not. However, He was facing 5 evil spirits at the same time and sent them flying with one palm. This method was too terrifying. It was far beyond everyone's understanding. However, the silver figure disappeared in a flash and was never seen again. This allowed everyone to breathe a sigh of relief. This was because if such a person appeared in front of them, it would have an adverse effect on the balance of the situation. Seeing the silver figure, Lin Xian frowned. He did not expect such an expert to be hidden among the human martial artists. On the other hand, Gu Santong's expression was solemn. It could even be said that he was very ugly. "What's wrong, Brother Gu?" Lin Xian also noticed this, so he asked, "Nothing much. I just feel that the silver figure from before has something to do with the Almighty, who was chasing after me." To be honest, Gu Santong could not be completely sure, but the aura on the other party's body gave him a familiar feeling. That was why he had such suspicions. However, now that the other party had left, he heaved a sigh of relief. Woo-woo! Just as everyone was shocked by the silver figure, a low voice suddenly came from the ancient house in the distance. It was as if a malicious spirit was weeping. This voice made one's scalp tingle. The next moment, an extremely cold and gloomy aura came from the ancient house in front of him. Whoosh! The entire street was covered in a layer of gray smoke, making the visibility of the surroundings very low. The chilly wind that blew on his body was abnormally cold. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a gray light flashed and streaked across the sky. Then, a scream rang out from among the human ancient martial art practitioners. Shortly after, the screaming king was quickly dragged into the ancient house in front of them. Crack! Crack! What followed was the sound of bones being chewed. "Ghost, it's really a ghost." Everyone's scalp went numb when they saw this scene. This was too terrifying. There must be an extremely terrifying malicious spirit in front of them. This was because they did not even see the other party's movements before a king was killed. In other words, the other party's strength had completely surpassed theirs. In an instant, everyone was extremely nervous, as if they were facing a great enemy. If the malicious spirit in front of them attacked again, would they be able to withstand it? However, at this critical moment, a laugh came from afar. "What a powerful ghost king. I didn't expect to meet one here. This thing is a great supplement for me." Everyone's scalp tingled when they heard this voice. Someone actually dared to target the ghost king in front of them. Did they want to die? However, what shocked them even more was that the person who spoke was a human ancient martial art practitioner. Since when did such a powerful ancient martial art practitioner appear among the humans? Could it be the silver figure from before? Everyone turned their heads to look in all directions, trying to find the person who spoke. Roar! The ghost king in the ancient house seemed to be roaring angrily as it shot out dozens of gray lights that pierced through the void. Humph! After a cold snort, countless human figures quickly appeared. Finally, they turned into a human figure and appeared on the street. However, in the next moment, everyone was stunned. That was because they realized that the human figure was too strange. That was because the person who appeared was not a powerful elder, as everyone had imagined. Instead, it was a child who was only 8 or 9 years old. That child had delicate features and looked very cute. There was even a trace of immaturity on his face. If one did not know better, they would have thought that he was a child of some family. However, that person appeared here. That meant that the other party was at least a king. However, was that person a peerless genius who had reached the king level at the age of 8 or 9? Or was it some old monster who had cultivated a special cultivation technique that caused his body to age and reached the level of a child? Everyone did not know, but thinking about it, the latter was more likely. As soon as the child appeared, he said with a smile, "You think you can hurt me? What a joke." As he said that, he waved his hand, and spiritual power gathered, forming a huge palm of light that blasted forward. Wherever it passed, countless cracks appeared on the street. That was too unbelievable. They knew that the ground was very hard, but the child's palm could actually cause damage. It was too shocking. Boom. That palm directly shattered the dozens of lights that filled the sky, turning them into specks of light that scattered on the ground. Not only that, the resplendent palm of light continued to blast towards the ancient house in front of it, as if it wanted to kill the Ghost King directly. Roar! Another furious roar was heard. Then a pitch-black palm reached out and grabbed forward. In the next moment, it collided with the resplendent palm of light. The collision of the two was earth-shattering. Then they dissipated into the void at the same time. You're quite capable, but you won't be able to escape from me today. The child's face darkened. Although his voice was immature, a terrifying aura was emitted from his body. There was even a hint of vicissitudes in his eyes. Obviously, that was not a child, but an old monster. Whoosh! The child's body flickered and appeared in front of the ancient house. His tender little hand contained an incomparably terrifying power as he grabbed forward. In the next moment, he and the Ghost King engaged in an earth-shattering battle. Everyone's scalps went numb when they saw that. However, they did not retreat. Instead, they observed carefully. That was because they also wanted to see if the child could subdue the Ghost King. Not long after, an extremely cold aura suddenly came from the void, and a silver light slashed fiercely towards the child. What? Someone else is attacking? Many people were stunned. Chapter 1800. This silver light came very suddenly without any warning. As soon as it appeared, it turned into a stream of light and slashed towards the child. Humph! The child snorted and disappeared from where he was, dodging the attack by a hair's breadth. Then his childish face turned serious. 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes as he stared at the void. "Mo, Tianqi, get the hell out here. Don't hide anymore." His voice was filled with murderous intent. What? Mo, Tianqi. Everyone was shocked and in disbelief. They looked around with their eyes wide open. They knew Mo Tianqi's name. He was a peerless almighty who had killed the elder of the wavering light sacred ground. It could be said that his name had spread across the entire eastern wilderness. Now that his name appeared here, did he come in too? Many people were shocked, and Lin Xian looked even more serious. Among these people, he had the deepest relationship with Mo Tianqi. Mo Tianqi was once the sect leader of the Elixir sect, and he was a disciple of the Elixir sect. He had witnessed Mo Tianqi's betrayal, and he had been looking for the heavenly secret divine eyes. But now, the heavenly secret divine eyes were with him. So the relationship between the two was very complicated. At this moment, Lin Xian decided that he could not use the heavenly secret divine eyes here. Otherwise, he would not be able to escape if Mo Tianqi found out. Although this space suppressed almighties and sealed their cultivation, Mo Tianqi was not an ordinary almighty. However, Mo Tianqi was no ordinary almighty. He was a peerless almighty. His strength was incomparably terrifying. Who knew what level his strength had reached? Lin Xian was secretly on guard. On the other side, the void fluctuated, and a silver light flashed. Then, a handsome and evil young man appeared in front of everyone. He was dressed in white, holding a folding fan and a jade flute at his waist. He was very handsome. If they did not know, they would think that he was a young master. But everyone knew that he was a peerless almighty. Mo Tianqi, it's you? The 8 or 9-year-old child stared ahead and said coldly, "You betrayed the sacred hall, and you still dare to show yourself. Today, I will eliminate you on behalf of the sacred hall." The child exuded killing intent. Saint Hall? What's Saint Hall? The surrounding people were puzzled. They had never heard of it before. and it seemed that Mo Tianqi and that child were both from the St. Hall. If this was true, then this St. Hall was too terrifying. But why had they never heard of it before? They didn't even get any information about it. Lin Xian was also puzzled. He asked the Crimson Dragon, but the Crimson Dragon shook his head. The Crimson Dragon didn't know about the Templar either. You think you can kill me? How laughable! Mo Tianqi shook his head slightly. You're neither human nor ghost. What are you doing here instead of staying in Nanjiang? That's my business. You don't have to know. The 8 or 9-year-old child snorted coldly, his expression abnormally cold. Do you think you can deal with me now that you've come out? I don't know if I can deal with you, but I can stop you from subduing this ghost king. The corner of Mo Tianqi's mouth curled up slightly. Then, an extremely terrifying aura surged from his body. Boom. In the next moment, he attacked mercilessly. Terrifying energy flowed forward. At the same time, the Ghost King also attacked at the same time, attacking the 8 or 9-year-old child together. The child snorted coldly. Then he waved his hand, and a black scroll appeared in his hand. Pung, pung, pung. In the next moment, the black scroll fluttered in the wind. Black light scattered in all directions, blocking the shocking attacks of Mo Tianqi and the Ghost King. Then, 2 short black sticks appeared in his hands. He kept knocking them. Clang, clang, clang. A low sound echoed in the surroundings, making everyone's hair stand on end. Buzz. Just as everyone was wondering what the other party was up to, a figure suddenly flew over from afar. In the next moment, he arrived beside the 8 or 9-year-old child. When everyone saw the scene, they went crazy. Even Lin Xian was extremely shocked. This was because the figure that appeared in front of them was none other than the burial goods that appeared at the entrance of the Palace of Bones. Weren't these burial goods supposed to be fighting with the demonic beasts outside? Why were they here? And from the looks of it, they seemed to be very respectful to the child. Could there be some connection between the two? The figure in front had a dull expression. He was wearing an ancient battle robe and emitted a monstrous aura of death. He was like a divine spear that stood there, making people look up to him. Mo Tianqi did not attack. His figure flashed, and he retreated into the distance, his cold eyes flickering. Looks like your corpse-controlling technique has become much stronger. You can even move this kind of ancient burial object. I have to say, I really underestimated you. Don't you think it's a little late for you to find out now? The child sneered. Attacking me in this place is your biggest mistake. However, when he heard this, Mo Tianqi looked up to the sky and laughed. His eyes were filled with disdain. Tai Mu Sun, do you really think that a mere burial object can trap me? And this place is not only beneficial to you, but also to me. In the next moment, he put away the folding fan in his hand and pulled out the jade flute from his waist. Then he gently put it to his mouth. Woo-woo. A strange sound echoed in the surroundings. Soon, countless miserable cries could be heard from afar, following which 5 to 6 dark figures rushed over at high speed. Malicious ghosts. When everyone saw this scene, their scalps went numb and their eyes widened. Could Mo Tianqi control malicious ghosts? In the next moment, they realized that it was true. The 5 or 6 malicious ghosts returned to Mo Tianqi's side. They were very respectful like servants. Mo Tianqi waved his sleeve, and the malicious ghosts immediately rushed forward like crazy. Not only that, there were even more malicious ghosts rushing over from afar. The Ghost King had also become abnormally irritable. A great battle broke out. Both of them were extremely powerful. Although they were suppressed and sealed, the means they displayed were too terrifying. Not only that, but both of them were extremely powerful. One could control the corpse of an ancient king, and the other could control the malicious ghosts here. The two's techniques were simply too terrifying, causing the surrounding kings to continuously retreat in fear. Clang! When a powerful wave of energy spread to the surroundings, all the kings retreated. Let's go! Lin Xian also retreated decisively. If he stayed here, it was very likely that he would be discovered by Mo Qianqi. That would be too disadvantageous for him. In fact, Lin Xian also knew that he had been discovered by Mo Qianqi long ago. He just did not know why Mo Qianqi did not make a move. Perhaps in Mo Qianqi's eyes, he was just an ant that was not worth mentioning. He had nothing to do with the heavenly secret divine eyes. Chapter 1801. In fact, Lin Xian was right. Mo Qianqi had noticed Lin Xian long ago, but for some reason he could not attack him directly. Mo Qianqi had resurrected Ouyang Feng and a few other strong cultivators and asked them to attack. He did not expect them to fail. After that, Mo Qianqi discovered other secrets in the primordial forest, and for a while he could not care about Lin Xian. Now that he was fighting someone else, he naturally could not care about Lin Xian. On the other side, Gu Santong's expression was cold. He realized that the person chasing him was most likely Mo Qianqi. He did not know why Mo Qianqi was chasing him, but no matter what the reason was, he was in a bad situation. Even if he was a genius disciple of a clan of the ancients, even if he was a dazzling genius, it would be difficult for him to escape from being targeted by an almighty. For a moment, everyone was retreating. However, a stream of light flashed in the crowd, and then a figure surrounded by divine light appeared. Yao Guang Sage. Many people exclaimed because it seemed that the other party was about to attack, but they did not know who he was targeting. In the next moment, the crowd exclaimed because they realized that the Yao Guang Sage was targeting Yi Wudao. That's right, the Yao Guang Sage was targeting Yi Wudao. He came in front of Yi Wudao, and his whole body was shining brightly. Yi Clan Sage body, do you dare to fight me? The Yao Guang Sage's voice was cold and powerful. Humph, why wouldn't I dare? Yi Wudao was not afraid at all, and a terrifying power exuded from his body, causing the void to distort rapidly. Boom! The two young geniuses fought together, and the sky and the earth cracked. The surrounding kings ran even faster. Lin Xian and Gu Santong also retreated quickly. When the two of them joined forces, nothing could stop them, and no one dared to have any ideas about them. In the next moment, Lin Xian, Gu Santong, and the others walked into the depths of the White Bone City. Not long after, Lin Xian and the others arrived at the depths of the White Bone City. It was even quieter here, and the loud rumbles in the distance had become so soft that they could not even hear them. There were many ancient buildings around, but no one dared to enter because they were afraid of attracting more powerful ghosts. As they walked forward, the area in front of them gradually widened. There weren't so many buildings, and instead, a huge plaza was formed. There was actually a huge sword in the square, a giant sword that reached the heavens. Lin Xian was astonished. He realized that the huge sword in front of him was very similar to the huge sword that came out of the sea of bones outside. However, why was there such a gigantic sword in White Bones City? However, what was even stranger was that there were mysterious Tao runes on the giant sword that continued to spread throughout the area. Even the entire plaza was covered in those Tao patterns. It was a very peculiar imitation of some kind of sacrificial offering in ancient times. What was the use of this huge sword, and what was it for? Why would it appear in the Giant Bone City? Lin Xian and the others were very confused. Many people were extremely curious. They walked forward and prepared to find out what was going on. Lin Xian, Gu Santong, and the rest also walked forward. They blended into the crowd and walked forward. Many of those people came to the vicinity of the enormous sword, but nothing happened. However, the moment Lin Xian stepped onto the plaza, the entire plaza began to tremble. The huge sword in front of him suddenly shook. Countless Tao runes flashed on it, and then condensed into a shocking sword light. It exploded from the huge sword and swept out in all directions. What's going on? What happened? Everyone was shocked. They did not expect the huge sword to suddenly change. The martial artists at the front were directly swept by the sword light and were sent flying. For a moment, everyone was bewildered. They did not dare to go forward because it was too strange. Lin Xian was also shocked. Could the huge sword's change have something to do with him? Or was it related to the great dragon sword soul in his body? He did not know, but he knew that it must be related. Therefore, in the next moment, he walked forward again. Buzz. The huge sword shone brightly. Then, the Tao runes seemed to come alive and emitted an even more peculiar light. Some of them even formed strange Tao runes, as if to express something to the crowd. Many kings were shocked. They realized that it was very likely a powerful martial technique. Therefore, in the next moment, they all focused on observing. However, although these Tao runes were strange, they were very obscure. These people looked at them for a long time, but they did not understand what they meant. Gu Santong looked at the Tao runes in front of him, his eyes flashing. Previously, when he was outside, he had spent a long time comprehending the huge sword near Gu Hai. Now that he saw the huge sword again, he did not feel that it was unfamiliar. Therefore, he walked to a suitable place and silently comprehended it. Lin Xian's eyes also flashed as he engraved the Tao runes in his mind. Although he could not fully comprehend them now, he believed that as long as he continued to comprehend them, he would definitely be able to comprehend something. The huge sword flashed. Not only was Lin Xian and the others shocked, but even Mo Tianqi, the Alcade Sage Son, and the others who were fighting in the distance were startled. However, Mo Tianqi and the 8 or 9-year-old child were engaged in an intense battle and did not rush over. However, the Alcade Sage Son and Yi Wudao stopped and did not continue fighting. Instead, they quickly rushed over. The arrival of the Alcade Sage Son and Yi Wudao attracted everyone's attention. Many people woke up from their comprehension and looked behind them. They wanted to know who had won this battle. However, judging from their expressions, they are both calm. It seems like a draw. There is no clear victor. Perhaps the battle was too short. It is impossible to determine the victor in a short period of time. Discussions broke out one after another. But no matter what the outcome was, the two of them were still top-notch existences. Yi Wudao and the Alcade Sage Son clearly did not notice the discussions. Their gazes were focused on the huge sword in front of them. As they looked ahead, their eyes flashed with resplendent light. Yi Wudao was like a god of war as he strode forward. Soon, he chose a place and silently comprehended. On the other side, the Alcade Sage Son also snorted coldly and walked forward. Everywhere he passed, the kings around him quickly dodged. But soon, he frowned because he discovered that there was a figure who dared to block his path. The surrounding martial artists also saw this scene and immediately began to whisper to each other. Someone actually dares to block the Alcade Sage Son. He is really courting death. Yeah, isn't that person too bold? What do you know? That kid is a demon king. This is going to be interesting. Many people recognized Lin Xian. They naturally knew that Lin Xian's strength was extremely terrifying. Chapter 1802. Many people recognized Lin Xian. Naturally, they also knew that Lin Xian's strength was extremely terrifying. The Alcade Saint was even more terrifying. If the two of them fought, it would definitely be a fierce battle. To be honest, Lin Xian did not pay attention to the Alcade Saint at all. All his energy was now focused on the giant sword in front of him. The Alcade Saint stopped in his tracks with a gloomy face. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. Someone actually dared not to make way for him. He was courting death. With a cold snort, the Alcade Saint raised his hand and shot out a dazzling light that quickly rushed forward. Feeling the fierce attack, Lin Xian woke up from his enlightenment. Then his face darkened. "Get lost!" With a roar, Lin Xian threw out a punch. The terrifying fist was shining with a black light. It was like a huge black dragon, rushing forward quickly. In the next moment, it collided with the fierce attack. Boom! An earth-shattering sound was heard. Then, the fierce attack exploded instantly. Lin Xian turned around and stared coldly at the Alcade Saint. "Why did you sneak an attack on me? Give me an explanation. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Hearing this, the surrounding people gasped. Their faces were filled with disbelief. They did not expect Lin Xian to attack the Alcade Saint. The Alcade Saint said coldly, "I've taken a liking to this place. Leave quickly. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." "Leave?" Lin Xian snorted. "You're really arrogant. Do you really think you're invincible?" As he spoke, he threw out a punch. A black fist appeared in the void. Like a raging dragon, it blasted forward. Boom! The space trembled. The black fist exuded an extremely violent aura. It was like a vast sea that swept through the entire space. Boom! Some of the surrounding kings could not withstand this aura and knelt on the ground. Their bodies trembled, and their eyes were filled with horror. It was too terrifying. They could not withstand this power at all. The Alcade Saint also frowned. He realized that his opponent's power was beyond his expectations. However, in the next moment, he also acted decisively. He stretched out his palm, bringing with it a holy radiance that filled the sky. It was as though the palm of a demon god was pressing down rapidly. The palm was condensed from spiritual power, and it carried a terrifying power that could easily kill a 6-star king. In the next moment, the two collided. Boom, boom. An earth-shattering sound rang out as boundless light surrounded the area, forming a gigantic pillar of light that shot straight into the clouds. Fortunately, the White Bone City was abnormally tough, and there were mysterious Tao runes floating around the square, preventing it from being affected. Otherwise, just a single strike from the two of them would be enough to completely destroy this place. After the attack, Lin Xian stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his whole body emitting the aura of spiritual power. Facing the Alcade Saint, he was extremely powerful. The surrounding people widened their eyes in disbelief. They didn't expect Lin Xian to be able to contend with the Alcade Saint. This was simply inconceivable. The Alcade Saint also frowned. He didn't expect Lin Xian to be able to block his attack. This was indeed beyond his expectations. One should know that he was a saint, and his strength was extremely terrifying. Not many people in the younger generation could contend with him. Lin Xian was neither a genius from the clan of the ancients, nor a saint from a peerless sacred ground. How could he block his attack? He had never seen such a thing before. Boy, I have to say that you are indeed beyond my expectations. You are worthy of my attack. However, it is obviously unwise for you to do so. You will end up in a miserable state if you fight with me. Cut the crap. I want to see what right you have to ask me to get lost today. Lin Xian snorted coldly, and his aura suddenly burst out. He was too angry. He had been comprehending here and didn't pay attention to Lin Xian at all. However, Lin Xian attacked him directly without any reason, which was intolerable. Therefore, he must teach Lin Xian a lesson today. So, what if Lin Xian was the Alcade Saint? If he dared to provoke him, he would still beat him up. Seeing Lin Xian's domineering attitude, the Alcade Saint's face darkened. Even Yi Wudao didn't dare to treat him like this. However, an unknown boy dared to look down on him, which made him want to kill him. In the next moment, the holy light on his body shone even brighter. He was like a holy light emissary, emitting endless light. Holy light palm. With a wave of his palm, the entire sky was illuminated like a resplendent sun, suppressing forward. Facing the Alcade Saint's powerful attack, Lin Xian wasn't afraid at all. He punched out, and his black fist drew a strange arc in the air. The sky was filled with dark light. It was extremely terrifying, and it collided with the holy palm. The light shone, and a sonorous sound spread in all directions. The surrounding kings trembled, and they were almost killed by this energy. At the same time, a huge light spread out in all directions. Everyone was shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air, because they realized that Lin Xian was really able to contend against the Alcade Saint. Not only that, but the two of them were also fighting. On the square, the two figures were like lightning, constantly exchanging blows. Every time they collided, the void would explode, and a terrifying black hole would appear. The two of them were so powerful that the crowd could only catch some blurry shadows. Only Gu Santong, Yi Wudao, and the older generation figures, as well as the mighty figures who had been suppressed, were able to clearly watch the entire battle. However, these people's faces were also extremely solemn because the two of them were like gods of war, blooming with light. The powerful force suppressed all directions, making them feel uncomfortable. They were frightened. Lin Xian was fighting the Alcade Saint. He was extremely powerful, and he wasn't at a disadvantage at all. He was like a raging dragon. The destructive black dragon scroll opened and closed, constantly bombarding. Heavens, who is that boy? Is he also a saint of a large sect? It's very possible. Maybe he's hiding his identity. Otherwise, no one else can compete with the Alcade Saint. Everyone was shocked because they realized that Lin Xian's strength was too terrifying. Boom! Terrifying light surged out, and Lin Xian's fist was like a black mountain directly sweeping forward. The shocking black aura quickly intertwined and rushed towards the Alcade Saint. Boom! 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 Every black light was extremely huge, like a mountain, and pitch black, as if a true dragon had appeared in the world. The void was like a painting that was ruthlessly torn apart in an instant, and terrifying energy filled every inch of space. The Alcade Saint used the Saint Light technique to resist with all his might. However, his expression was extremely solemn, and it could even be said that he was shocked, because he never thought that the other party could compete with him, and for so long. Chapter 1803. However, his expression was solemn and even shocked. He had never thought that the other party would be able to contend with him for such a long time. One had to know that only saints and other prodigies could compete with him. However, the other party was not famous at all. He had never even heard of him. This meant that the other party was definitely not a disciple of a sacred ground. However, the other party had incredible combat strength and was able to fight with him without being at a disadvantage. It was truly shocking. At the same time, it made him extremely angry. The next moment, he clasped his hands together, and the light on his body rose again. A powerful and terrifying force surged out like a tsunami. Boom! The entire world trembled violently in an instant, and a terrifying force slammed in all directions. The surrounding kings frantically retreated, and their eyes were filled with horror. Lin Xian also swayed and distanced himself. What? The wavering light saint's aura has become stronger again? How terrifying! Could it be that the wavering light saint didn't use his full strength before? That must be it. No wonder that kid could hold on for such a long time. It seems that the wavering light saint went easy on him previously. I'm afraid that kid won't be having a good time now. He might even be defeated immediately. Discussions broke out. Obviously, they were shocked by the power that the wavering light saint had displayed. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes and stopped attacking. He said in a low voice, "You really did hide your strength. Since you know, why don't you obediently surrender? Kneel by the side. Otherwise, when I attack, you'll really die." The wavering light saint's voice was cold. Lin Xian laughed. "Do you think you're the only one who hid your strength?" As he spoke, he clenched his fist and pulled out the 9-darkness demonic sword from the void. The originally violent black aura on his body instantly transformed into terrifying sword chi that shot into the sky. Those sword lights were so sharp that they seemed to be able to break through the heavens and cut through the 9-darkness. Even some kings started to tremble uncontrollably. What a terrifying sword chi! That kid actually hid his strength too. Heavens, how is that possible? How can he be so powerful? Kill. In the square, Lin Xian coldly snorted. He quickly waved the 9 Hell Devil sword, and streaks of sword light fell like the Milky Way. The radiance was boundless and endless. Tens of thousands of sword chi rushed into the clouds, shocking everyone. Clang! Clang! The Alcade Saint also snorted coldly and used the Saint Light technique to fight back. Above his left hand, boundless radiance condensed, forming a huge light shield. On top of it, there was a sun pattern, which was extremely dazzling. Holy Light Shield. The Alcade Saint held a huge light shield in his hand to resist the sword chi that filled the sky. Clang! 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 A terrifying vibration sounded, tearing the void apart. The divine light shield in the hands of the Alcade Holy Sun dimmed instantly. However, the Alcade Saint let out a furious roar as countless saint lights gushed out from his body. It quickly replenished the divine light shield. This caused the divine light shield to shine once more. Not only that, but all kinds of strange runes shone on the holy light shield this time, blocking the sword chi. On the other side, Lin Xian held the demon sword in his hand. He was like a god of death, and the more he fought, the braver he became. The 9-darkness demon sword was pitch black, and the black sword chi was like a crescent wave that slashed forward. Bang! This sword was more terrifying than all the previous sword chi, so even though the Alcade Saint was holding the holy light shield, he was still forced to retreat. What? The Alcade Saint was forced to retreat. Everyone opened their mouths wide in disbelief. Although the Alcade Saint was not injured, it was still unbelievable that he was forced to retreat. That was the Alcade Saint. He was absolutely terrifying in the younger generation. The Alcade Saint was also shocked. He found that his opponent was too powerful, and he was not weaker than Yi Wudao. Humph! The next moment, he let out an angry roar, and his entire person became furious. 2 bright rays of light shot out from his eyes, like torches that pierced through the void. His entire body was covered by a bright halo that was like a flame, making him look incomparably majestic. Not only that, he held the holy light shield in his left hand, and a bright spear appeared in his right hand. The long spear vibrated, and the sky was filled with multicolored light, and a terrifying power swept in all directions. Boom! The Alcade Saint finally began to fight back. He stabbed out, and the bright spear in his hand instantly erupted. The terrifying power was like a torch that shrouded Lin Xian. Lin Xian also let out a cold roar, and a shocking sword light burst out from his eyes. He held the demon sword in his hand and swung it around. The two constantly collided, bursting out lightning-like rays of light that surrounded the surroundings. Soon 100 moves had passed, and the two of them were still fighting. They were evenly matched. All the spectators were shocked. They now found that Lin Xian was really too powerful. He was able to be evenly matched with the Alcade Saint. The Alcade Saint was also shocked, and then his face became extremely ugly. However, he did not attack again in the next moment. Instead, he waved out a shocking spear light, and then his entire body retreated. Lin Xian shattered the spear light, but he did not attack. He stared coldly at his opponent. It seemed that the two of them would not be able to determine the result of this battle for a while, unless they used all their trump cards, but in that case, others would benefit. Therefore, the two of them would not attack again. The Alcade Saint snorted coldly and ignored Lin Xian. He also did not fight for Lin Xian's position. Instead, he walked in another direction and silently comprehended the giant sword in front of him. Lin Xian put away the demon sword and also began to comprehend. The surrounding people were shocked. The battle had happened so suddenly and ended so quickly that no one could react. Outside, the battle between the peerless Monster King and the City of Bones was still going on. The terrifying sound waves were like waves that kept bombarding. Lin Xian looked at the giant sword in front of him and fell into a strange state. Suddenly, he found that the giant sword in front of him was emitting a bright light. Then the scene in front of him also changed. He found that in the square, in addition to the giant sword in front of him, there were 4 more illusory sword shadows. Each of them was indomitable and incomparably huge, emitting a monstrous aura. They suppressed the entire square, as if they were sealing something. What's going on? Lin Xian was shocked. He did not expect that there would be 4 illusory sword shadows around him. He turned his head and looked around. He found that the others were still silently comprehending, as if they did not notice the 4 illusory sword shadows around them. What's going on? Am I the only one who saw it? Now he found that the scene he saw was different from what others saw, which made him very confused. But in the next moment he understood, because the giant sword in front of him had changed. The shape of the sword was rapidly changing, forming the appearance of a giant dragon. The dragon's head and the sword's body were extremely ferocious. A terrifying murderous aura permeated the 9 heavens and 10 lands. What? This is the great dragon sword. Lin Xian looked at the giant sword in front of him in shock. The appearance of the giant sword was too familiar. His great dragon sword soul could condense that appearance. Could it be that the giant sword in front of me is the great dragon sword? Lin Xian was too shocked. He only had the great dragon sword soul, and the great dragon sword had disappeared in the ancient times. He did not know where it was, but he did not expect to see the great dragon sword body now. If he could obtain the great dragon sword body and merge with the great dragon sword soul, then his combat strength would be incomparably heaven-defying. However, was the other party the real great dragon sword? He did not know. Moreover, even if it was real, he did not have the ability to subdue the giant sword in front of him. The other party emitted an incomparably terrifying aura, as if it was a real giant dragon. Anyone in front of it would feel incomparably small. Lin Xian looked at this scene and was shocked. However, he soon thought of something. If the giant sword in front of him was the great dragon sword, then would the other 4 sword shadows be the other 4 divine swords? Of the 5 swords in the world, besides the great dragon sword, there were 4 other divine swords. So, in the next moment, Lin Xian looked at the second sword shadow. It was different from the great dragon sword. The great dragon sword was lifelike, and every sword pattern on it was clearly visible. However, the giant sword next to it was incomparably pitch black, like a black hole, making it impossible to see the real situation. Not only that, the space around it was distorted, as if even the light was swallowed. The devouring sword. Lin Xian was shocked. He had seen this kind of divine sword in Lord Alcohol's hands before. He thought that it should be the legendary devouring sword. Lin Xian was too surprised. He found that this was indeed the 5 swords in the world. He did not expect that these sword shadows would appear in the giant bone city. What was the connection between them? Soon, he found something different. This was because he found that below the devouring sword, there was a pattern that connected to the square. It was an incomparably cold place, as if it was hell. The devouring sword was like a black mountain directly inserted into the demonic earth. In the pattern, there were thousands of demons struggling crazily, but all of them fell to the ground. Could it be that the devouring sword suppressed the demonic earth? Lin Xian was shocked because he could only see this from the pattern. Thinking of the great dragon sword and the giant bone city in front of him, Lin Xian had a bold guess in his heart. Could it be that each of the 5 swords in the world suppressed a forbidden area? But where are those places exactly? Why do they need to be suppressed? Moreover, they are peerless divine objects like the 5 swords in the world. He really could not understand. The third sword shadow was a picture of the 100 forms of life, as if it recorded everything in the world. It also suppressed a forbidden area. It was a continuous mining area that seemed to be buried with endless divine treasures. The fourth sword shadow was even more strange. Around it, there were apes and monkeys, as well as people who looked like ancient war gods. There were even some figures wearing ancient armor and holding totems in their hands. Not only that, there were also some clothes that Lin Xian was familiar with. It was obvious that they were modern. There were even some strange people that he had never seen before. The fifth sword shadow was all kinds of natural scenes. Mountain torrents erupted, heavenly lightning fell. And in short, there were some strange phenomena of heaven and earth. The 5 sword shadows were extremely terrifying. They brought about different scenes, but without exception, they all suppressed peerless places. This scene caused Lin Xian to be extremely shocked. He knew that these 5 sword shadows represented the 5 swords in the world, although he could not completely recognize them. However, he had a certain understanding of them. The first sword shadow was the great dragon sword. The second sword shadow was the devourer's sword. The third sword shadow showed the 100 forms of life. It should be the reincarnation sword. The one with the ancient, modern, and future should be the legendary space-time sword. Only it could connect the past, present, and future together. The last divine sword that caused the strange phenomena of heaven and earth should be the heavenly punishment sword. Legend had it that the divine sword was related to the heavenly path. Each of the 5 divine swords had incredible power and could be said to be extremely mysterious. If these 5 sword shadows appeared in the eastern wilderness, it would definitely make everyone go crazy. Even those peerless sacred grounds and clans of the ancients would go crazy. However, these 5 sword shadows had all appeared, and only Lin Xian could see them. Boom, boom, boom. After an earth-shattering sound, the sword shadows in front of him disappeared. The surroundings changed once again. All of the illusions were quickly disappearing. The great dragon sword soul in Lin Xian's body started to rotate rapidly and even roar. At this moment, Lin Xian felt that the great dragon sword soul in his body had formed a connection with the great dragon sword in front of him. A magical force gathered in the air, and the sword shadows that had disappeared reappeared, shining brightly. Buzz! A ray of light rushed out, with the sword shadows as the center, and spread out in all directions, covering the entire bone city. In the next moment, Lin Xian and the others felt that time and space had changed, as if they had fallen into a space-time vortex. Buzz! Buzz! After a long time, Lin Xian opened his eyes. He found that it was quiet around him. He was in a forest, and there were stars in the sky. The surroundings were abnormally quiet. Not the Bone City. Lin Xian was shocked. He looked around and found that there were no longer any terrifying sceneries around him, nor were there any deafening explosions. Apparently, they had come out. Not only him, but there were also countless figures around him. They were all the kings who had entered the Bone City. At this moment, they were all wild with joy as they looked at their surroundings. We're out. Haha, we're finally out. God bless us. We're finally out. Exclamations could be heard. Obviously, Everyone was very excited. After all, the Bone City was a terrifying place. They were extremely lucky to be able to come out. Beside them, the Crimson Dragon also heaved a sigh of relief. Damn, Ben Huang was scared to death. I thought we were going to be trapped in the White Bone City forever. To be honest, he was really scared. Because he had been sealed for thousands of years, if he was trapped in the Bone City again, he might as well kill himself. However, soon, the Crimson Dragon became suspicious. Kid, something's not right. Look at this place. What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. This is not the Tilted Moon world. We can absorb the spiritual qi around us. The Crimson Dragon waved his dragon claws. He found that he could control the spiritual qi around him with his spiritual fire. This was something that could not be done in the Tilted Moon world. It's true. Lin Xian was also surprised. He found that the aura here was completely different from that of the Tilted Moon world. Not only the two of them, but the others also noticed this. Then, a series of exclamations sounded. Chapter 1804. Heavens! I can actually absorb spiritual energy. My suppressed cultivation has also recovered. Could it be that we've left the Tilted Moon mystic world? Everyone exclaimed as they realized that the scenery around them was indeed not from the Tilted Moon mystic world. They were out. At this moment, many people looked up to the sky and cheered excitedly. They had thought that they would be trapped in the Tilted Moon mystic world for the rest of their lives. Who knew that they would finally be able to leave? However, at this moment, a ray of light shot up into the sky. The Alcade Sage turned into a dazzling ray of light and instantly rushed into the sky. Not only him, but Yi Wudao and the Yi family also quickly left. Then Gu Santong and a few other sky prides also quickly left. Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon also did not hesitate. He grabbed Lu Mingyue and put her back into the black earth. Then the two of them opened the profound jade platform and directly teleported. Boom! In the next moment, the powerful figures mercilessly attacked and quickly chased after Lin Xian, the Alcade Sage, and the others. However, they came up empty-handed. Lin Xian and the other young sky prides were very decisive and quickly escaped. He had narrowly escaped the attack. However, the powerful figures did not give up and quickly chased after them. Terrifying auras spread for thousands of miles, but soon the powerful figures' faces turned green. This was because they realized that although they had left the Tilted Moon mystic world, they were near the entrance of the mystic world. There were a large number of peerless sages and elders of peerless sects there. Therefore, at this moment, their movements attracted the attention of those people. Soon the Yi family and the Gu family quickly flew into the sky and protected the Alcade Sage, Gu Santong, Yi Wudao, and the others. Not only that, the elders of the remote antiquity families and peerless holy lands roared angrily and attacked the powerful figures. In an instant, a shocking battle broke out. On the other side, Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon used the profound jade platform to continuously teleport and completely left this area. One day later, the battle ended. The major forces rested and reorganized, and the strange things that happened in the mystic world quickly spread. Those peerless great sects, peerless sacred grounds, and remote antiquity families were all shocked when they learned about what had happened in the oblique moon mysterious world. This was because they discovered that not only were there primitive residents, but there was also a mysterious city made of white bones. From the looks of it, there was definitely an ancient secret buried here. For a moment, the elders of the peerless holy lands and the remote antiquity families all had flickering eyes. Some of them even wanted to rush in. However, they discovered that the entrance had long been closed. outsiders would not be able to open it unless a saint descended. However, such a person had not appeared for many years. Therefore, it was impossible to forcefully enter the tilted moon profound world, while the remote antiquity families and peerless sacred grounds were trying to come up with a solution. The other sects were roaring furiously. This was because they realized that they had lost more than half of their disciples. Some of them had even been completely wiped out. They were all elite geniuses. And the loss of even one of them was enough to cause them incomparable pain, let alone now that all of them had fallen. Damn, brat, don't let me find you, otherwise I'll tear you to pieces. The experts of the 5 elements sect roared crazily. Humph! How dare you kill the geniuses of my 4 symbols' holy grounds? There will be no way for you to survive in the eastern wasteland. The experts that were flying toward the sacred grounds were also filled with killing intent. They had learned that their genius disciple, Ouyang Feng, had not been killed by anyone. This caused them to be incomparably furious. However, the All Beginnings Holy Land was even more furious. This was because they discovered that Lu Mingyue had disappeared. After asking around, they learned that Lu Mingyue had fought with someone in the tilted moon profound world and had been captured in the end. This caused them to feel a wave of dizziness. Some of them were even unable to endure it. One must know that they had nurtured Lu Mingyue as a saintess. Furthermore, they had already decided that once Lu Mingyue came out, they would immediately make her the saintess of the All Beginnings Holy Land. But now, who would have thought that Lu Mingyue would be captured? They had already learned from the mouths of other cultivators that it was a demon king who had taken action. For Lu Mingyue to fall into the hands of such a person, everything pointed to disaster. Everyone, take a look. Is this the person? An elder of the Wavering Light Holy Land took out a portrait. On the portrait was a portrait of Lin Xian. That's right. It's him. Yes, it's this brat. Numerous cries of alarm sounded. This brat is actually that Lin Xian who was previously wanted. What? He actually came in here? Damn it, it's actually him. I didn't even notice him before. Countless roars sounded. To be honest, they hadn't noticed him before. Even if they had noticed him, they wouldn't have cared. After all, the tilted moon profound world had been sealed back then. Whether or not they could come out was another matter. There was no need for them to chase after Lin Xian for the bounty of the Wavering Light Holy Land. But now, things were different. They had already come out. The situation had taken a huge turn. Furthermore, the people of the exceptional Holy Land were gnashing their teeth as they looked at Lin Xian's portrait. They wished they could skin him alive. Find him. We must capture that brat. The people of the All Beginnings Holy Land were ferocious. The others were also preparing to search for Lin Xian. As for the Wavering Light Holy Land's Holy Son, he released an astonishing piece of news. Not only had Lin Xian appeared in the tilted moon profound world, but Mo Qianqi had also appeared. This news caused everyone to be extremely shocked. Their expressions all turned unsightly. After all, Mo Qianqi was an exceptional expert. If he came out, not many of them would be able to contend against him, unless they ganged up on him. Furthermore, they had learned from the Wavering Light Holy Land's Holy Son that Mo Qianqi had joined an organization called the Holy Hall. Holy Hall? Everyone frowned. They seemed to be pondering over this name. However, they discovered that they didn't know anything about it. In the end, the people of the Wavering Light Holy Land decided to leave this place. After all, Mo Qianqi's matter was too important. They had to return and discuss this matter properly. The others also left quickly. Some returned to report this matter, while others prepared to capture Lin Xian. On the other side, Lin Xian finally managed to shake off the pursuit of the almighty experts and arrived at a nearby city. However, He soon discovered that someone was asking about him. It wasn't the people of the All Beginnings Holy Land. Instead, it was the people of the Jade Lake Holy Land and the Purple Afterglow Holy Land. Could it be Qiu and Qingqing? Lin Xian's heart shook. He knew that the two of them had officially joined the Jade Lake Holy Land and the Purple Afterglow Holy Land. Now that the two Holy Lands were asking about him, it was very likely that they had received orders from Shen Jingqiu and Murong Qingqing. Lin Xian investigated the surroundings and discovered that there were no almighty experts following him. Therefore, he decided to contact the people of these two holy lands. Sure enough, those who contacted him told him that it was Shen Jingqiu and Murong Qingqing who had given the order. Originally, the two of them were very anxious when they learned that Lin Xian was being hunted down. Therefore, they hurriedly sent people to search for Lin Xian. However, they didn't expect that Lin Xian had actually entered the Tilted Moon profound world. He had been gone for almost a year. Murong Qingqing and Shen Jingqiu couldn't get any news. They could only patiently search for him. They didn't expect to finally find him now. Chapter 1805. He had been gone for almost a year. Murong Qingqing and Shen Jingqiu hadn't been able to obtain any news, so they could only patiently search for him. They hadn't expected to finally find him. The people from the Jade Lake sacred ground quickly retreated because they informed Lin Xian that Shen Jingqiu was currently at a critical juncture in her cultivation and couldn't come out. Therefore, they returned to report the news. The people from the Purple Afterglow Holy Land said that Murong Qingqing was nearby. They quickly brought Lin Xian out of the city and headed to the next one. 2 days later, Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing met. Their eyes met, and the two of them sighed. Soon after, Lin Xian brought Murong Qingqing into the black earth vessel. 3 days later, the two of them came out. Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing were strolling on the grassland. Murong Qingqing listened to Lin Xian's experiences in the past year with a face full of lingering fear. Fortunately, Lin Xian had come out. Otherwise, with the strangeness of the White Bone City and the oblique moon mystic world, he might have been trapped inside for the rest of his life. You always make people worry, Murong Qingqing grumbled. Her eyes were filled with worry. Lin Xian laughed heartily. If other people knew that the Purple Afterglow Holy Land Saintess was worried about me, I wonder if those young geniuses would be heartbroken. That's right, Murong Qingqing had become the Purple Afterglow Holy Land Saintess. Moreover, Lin Xian knew that after Shen Jingqiu came out, she would very likely become the Jade Lake Sacred Ground Saintess. They were all his women. Lin Xian was happy for them. At this time, Murong Qingqing asked, "That's right, what do you plan to do with Lu Mingyue?" "Well, I have to think about it carefully." Lin Xian's eyes flickered. Lu Mingyue's identity was very special. If he could make use of her effectively, he might obtain the All Beginnings Holy Land support. Even though Lin Xian's strength was formidable right now, the forces behind him were simply too weak. He didn't have any sect or family to rely on. He could only rely on himself. If that was the case, it would be extremely dangerous for him to travel around the eastern wilderness. Therefore, he had to think of a way to rope in some forces. Now it seemed that with Murong Qingqing and Shen Jingqiu, at least the Jade Lake Sacred Land and Zixia Sacred Land would not make an enemy out of him. It was even possible that they would lend a helping hand at certain times. Hearing that, Murong Qingqing said, "It's up to you how you want to use her. Even if you want to keep her, I won't object." When Lin Xian heard this, he was a little surprised. Then he muttered in his heart, "Is this a test?" In the next moment, he chuckled and said, "How can that be? I already have you and Qiu. Why would I look for anyone else?" Murong Qingqing stared at Lin Xian with a smirk. "Is that so?" "Who is Zhao Shui? Do you know how to accept it?" Lin Xian was speechless. Murong Qingqing twirled her hair and said, "Don't worry, I won't be so stingy. But you have to remember one thing. You can't forget me, and you can't let me down." Of course, Lin Xian's eyes were filled with warmth as he pulled her into his arms. The two of them stayed for a month. Then, Murong Qingqing returned to the Zixia sacred land. Lin Xian prepared to go into seclusion and cultivate. This time, he had benefited a lot in the Tilted Moon mystic world. His cultivation had improved greatly, and he had also comprehended some mysterious Tao patterns. He needed to digest all of this. Therefore, he came to a mountain range and opened up a cave abode. He set up a formation that covered the sky and then entered the black earth. This seclusion lasted for half a year. In this half a year, Lin Xian's cultivation had stabilized. Not only that, but he had also improved a lot. He had reached the late-stage 4-star king realm. Also, he had made some progress in comprehending those Tao patterns. It could be said that his current strength had increased by a large margin. Lin Xian didn't continue cultivating. He felt that half a year was enough. Moreover, he wanted to go out and take a look at the situation outside. Inside the black earth, Lin Xian came out of seclusion and saw Lu Mingyue. Lu Mingyue was still wearing her blue dress. Nothing could be more beautiful. However, her complexion was very ugly. She had been imprisoned by Lin Xian for half a year. This made her feel like she was going crazy. According to the agreement of the sect, she would become the holy maiden of the All Beginnings sacred land after she came out. She would become one of the most dazzling figures of the Eastern Wasteland's younger generation. But now, everything was gone. Not only that, but she had also become Lin Xian's servant. She couldn't accept this. Therefore, when she saw Lin Xian come out, she clenched her teeth and said, "Brat, I advise you to release me. Otherwise, the All Beginnings sacred land won't let you off." The All Beginnings sacred land? Don't worry, I've already provoked the Wavering Light sacred land. I don't mind adding another All Beginnings sacred land. Provoked the Wavering Light sacred land? Lu Mingyue was stunned. One had to know that the other party had killed the people of the 4 symbols, sacred lands, and 5 elements sect in the oblique moon mystic world. But now the other party didn't mention these things, and only mentioned the Wavering Light sacred land. Why? Lu Mingyue's eyes flickered. Soon, she recalled a piece of news she had received before entering the oblique moon mystic world. In the next instant, her complexion changed. She pointed at Lin Xian and screamed, "You are that Lin Xian wanted by the Wavering Light sacred land. Not bad. You actually guessed it. That's right. I am Lin Xian. Damn brat, it's actually you." Lu Mingyue was extremely shocked. She didn't expect the other party to have such a background. But in the next instant, she said in a deep voice, "Lin Xian, I advise you not to make a mistake. If you release me, I guarantee that I won't make things difficult for you. Moreover, the All Beginnings sacred land won't look for trouble with you." "Is that so? I would be an idiot to believe you." Lin Xian sneered. He wasn't moved at all. Lu Mingyue's complexion turned gloomy. "What will it take for you to release me?" Lin Xian, who was sitting to the side, faintly said, "To be honest, I originally wanted to train you into a maid. That's because I didn't expect to be able to leave the oblique moon mystic world so quickly. But now that I've come out, the situation is different. You are a genius disciple of the All Beginnings sacred land. You are someone who has the potential to become the saintess. Now that you have been captured by me, it is a great humiliation to the All Beginnings sacred land. I'm afraid that the other party wishes to kill me to vent his hatred. Therefore, I can't let you live." "What? You dare to attack me?" Lu Mingyue became nervous. She subconsciously took 3 steps back. Her entire body tensed up. One had to know that the other party had never planned to kill her before. This made her think that the other party was afraid of the All-Beginning's sacred land and didn't dare to kill her. But now, she saw a trace of determination in the other party's eyes. It was clear that the other party was really going to attack her. Lu Mingyue's pupils shrank. She quickly tried to think of a way to prevent herself from being killed by the other party. You can't kill me. If you kill me, the All-Beginning's sacred land will absolutely not let you off. Lin Xian shook his head. This reason won't do. Even if I don't kill you, the All-Beginning's sacred land will still come looking for trouble with me. Chapter 1806. You can't kill me. If you kill me, the All-Beginning's holy land will absolutely not let you off. Lin Xian shook his head. This reason won't do. Even if I don't kill you, the All-Beginning's holy land will still find trouble with me. At this point, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and continued, I can point you in the right direction. Why don't you become my maid and serve me? Perhaps I can spare your life if you do so. Lu Mingyue became even more nervous. Her palms even started to sweat. She knew what it meant to be a maid. It was different from serving tea and water. If she became a maid, not only would she have to serve tea and water, but she might even become a cultivation furnace for the other party. If that happened, she would be consigned to eternal damnation. Thus, she clenched her teeth and said, Don't even think about it. My husband must be an indomitable spirit that stands above all. Right now, you don't have the qualifications. Lu Mingyue said that her current situation was very dangerous. However, she also had her own pride. Among the younger generation, she was an incomparably dazzling existence. In her heart, her idols were those indomitable young heavenly prides who had the qualifications to become great emperors. In her opinion, although Lin Xian was powerful, he still didn't have the qualifications to do so. Ha ha, your ambitions aren't small. Lin Xian smiled, not caring at all. However, I am very curious. What conditions can you offer me to let you off? Lu Mingyue's eyes flickered, as if she was making a final struggle. But at this time, the void suddenly shook. Then, an extremely powerful explosion came from outside. Although the black earth wasn't damaged, Lin Xian could clearly sense the situation outside. Have we been discovered? Lin Xian frowned. This shouldn't be the case. He had arranged many array formations outside. Even an almighty being shouldn't be able to discover them. But now, someone was actually bombarding the cave. This left him flabbergasted. Could it be that someone accidentally got caught up in a battle? Lin Xian guessed. Soon, however, 2 more attacks landed on the black earth, causing the ship to shake violently. Someone really did discover us. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian's face sank. He realized that the other party's target was clearly the black earth. In the next moment, he snorted coldly. His figure flashed, and he appeared in the outside world. Then he saw that the entire mountain range had been blasted open, revealing more than half of the cracks. There were dozens of figures in front of him, completely surrounding this place. There was indeed someone. Lin Xian frowned. He walked out and asked in a deep voice, Who are you? Why did you destroy my cave? You're disturbing my cultivation? You're that Lin Xian. At this moment, a young man walked out from the front with a scroll in his hand. After comparing the two, he asked coldly, That's right, it's me. Lin Xian replied in a deep voice, If it's you, then it's easy. The young man sneered. Then he waved his hand. Shout out to the surrounding people. Take him down. Yes. When the kings heard this order, they all drew their swords and sabers. Terrifying auras surged from their bodies as they locked onto Lin Xian. Who are you? You actually dared to attack me? Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect that the other party would come looking for trouble with him. Moreover, from the looks of it, they didn't seem to be people from the wavering light, Holy Land. You dared to kill a disciple of my All Beginnings Holy Land? You're truly audacious. Today, I'll capture you and bring you back to the sect. The young man coldly snorted, his expression ice cold. All Beginnings Holy Land? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He was just talking about the All Beginnings Holy Land a moment ago. He didn't expect that the other party would come knocking on his door. Then, the corners of his lips curled up. Your future saintess is still in my hands. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill her if you act rashly? Future saintess? The young man sneered. What future saintess? She was captured by you and became a prisoner. She has already lost the qualifications to become a saintess. If you want to kill her, then kill her. Even if you don't do anything, we will still kill her. Lin Xian frowned when he heard this heartless voice. Then he waved his hand and summoned Lu Mingyue from the black earth. Did you hear what I said? Lin Xian asked indifferently. Lu Mingyue didn't reply. However, her complexion was exceptionally gloomy. It was clear that she had heard everything. She stared at the young man and coldly asked, "What did you say?" "Say it again." "Ha, you slut. You really came out? I didn't expect you to still be alive." The young man sneered. "What did I say? Are you deaf? I'm here on the orders of the branch Holy Land to capture you, and this brat. I'll kill you both." "Nonsense." Lu Mingyue coldly snorted. "I am the future All Beginnings Saintess. How could the sect kill me? How is that possible?" The young man sneered. "You no longer have the qualifications to become a saintess. The only one who can become a saintess is my elder sister." It was clear that the All Beginnings Holy Land was the same as the other holy lands. Behind every official saintess were some reserve saintesses. Lu Mingyue was also one of the reserve saintesses. The elder sister of the young man should also be a reserve saintess. Originally, Lu Mingyue had the qualifications to become a true saintess, but now it seemed that she had been abandoned by the sect. As for the other party's elder sister, it was very likely that she would become a true saintess. Lu Mingyue naturally thought of this. Thus, her complexion turned ice cold. Her body even trembled in anger. She hadn't expected that the sect would abandon her and let another disciple become the All Beginnings Saintess. Not only that, but what made her feel even more despair was that the sect actually wanted to kill her. Why? I don't understand. Lu Mingyue clenched her jade-like hands so tightly that her fingernails dug into her palms. It was clear that she couldn't accept this news. I, Lu Mingyue, entered the All Beginnings Holy Land when I was 3 years old. I've been in the All Beginnings Holy Land all these years. I've already treated it as my home. But now, the sect actually wants to kill me? Why is that? Lu Mingyue finally roared in anger. Why, you are truly naive. A holy land wouldn't find someone with questionable chastity to become a saintess. Not to mention, you're already someone else's prisoner. Who knows what happened between the two of you? The young man looked down at Lu Mingyue. His eyes were filled with ridicule. If you want to blame someone, then blame yourself. Serves you right. Who allowed you to enter the oblique moon mystic world for no reason? Moreover, if you're not strong enough, don't try to show off. Otherwise, you'll become someone else's prisoner. If I were you, I would have committed suicide long ago. I'll kill you, Lu Mingyue screamed in anger. Then she thrust her jade-like hands forward and grabbed at the young man. Seeing this scene, the young man jumped in fright and hurriedly dodged. However, when he saw that Lu Mingyue was only putting on an act and didn't release any terrifying power from her body, he immediately threw his head back and roared with laughter. "Ahaha! I'm dying of laughter. You want to kill me with just you alone? Don't forget that you're now a prisoner." The young man's eyes were filled with savagery. Save your strength. I advise you to obediently allow yourself to be captured. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Chapter 1807. The youth's eyes were filled with savagery. Save your strength. I advise you to obediently allow yourself to be captured. Otherwise, don't blame me for being vicious and merciless. After I kill this brat, I'll have a good taste of your beauty. It would be a pity if such a beautiful girl were to be killed like this. Don't worry, I'll definitely let you taste the taste of pain before you die. Damn it, I can't accept this. Lu Mingyue gnashed her teeth in anger. She wanted to rush over, but was stopped by a palm. Let go of me. Lu Mingyue turned her head and glared at Lin Xian with her beautiful eyes. It was all because of this brat that she had fallen into such a desperate situation. However, Lin Xian tightened his grip on her shoulder. Then, a surge of energy surged into her body. Lu Mingyue immediately closed her eyes and fainted. In the next instant, she was sent to the black earth by Lin Xian. He hadn't expected that the All Beginnings Holy Land would kill Lu Mingyue as well. However, he didn't want to kill her right now. Thus, he sent her to a safe place. He alone was enough to deal with the people around him. In the next instant, he clasped his hands behind his back and looked around. Then he asked indifferently, "Are you going to kill yourselves in front of me? Or do you want me to do it myself? I advise you to choose the first option. Otherwise, if I do it myself, your end will be very miserable." Sanction? Humph, brat. I think water must have entered your head. You actually dare to speak such big words in front of me? Do you know how many people I brought with me this time? How strong are they? You're just a small, loose cultivator. Do you think you have the ability to resist? Even if you can defeat Lu Mingyue, the people I brought with me are enough to suppress someone like you. Go, kill him for me. The youth sneered and waved his hand. Brat, let me deal with you. I want to see what kind of ability you have to actually dare to speak such arrogant words. This was a middle-aged man. His cultivation had reached the level of a 6-star king. His strength was incomparably powerful. When he heard the word sanction, this middle-aged man was naturally furious. Therefore, at this moment, when the young man gave the order, he immediately stood up and wanted to take care of Lin Xian by himself. From his point of view, even though Lin Xian had captured Lu Mingyue, he must have used despicable means to do so. It was definitely not a direct confrontation. One had to know that he had sensed Lin Xian's cultivation base, and he was only a late-stage 4-star king. This kind of cultivation was simply too weak. He didn't believe that this young man could contend against a 6-star king. After all, there was a difference of 2 levels between them. These 2 levels could be said to be the difference between heaven and earth. It was like a dragon against an ant. Therefore, at this moment, he stood out very confidently and completely disregarded Lin Xian. Lin Xian coldly snorted and revealed a look of disdain. I advise you to attack together. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to attack. How dare you? Brat, you're too arrogant. The middle-aged man who stood out immediately flew into a rage when he heard this. The other party actually dared to look down on him. This was truly unforgivable. In the next moment, he roared, raised his finger, and pressed forward. Boom, boom, boom. His body shone brightly. An endless power gathered on his finger. A terrifying chaotic light quickly surged out. This was the chaotic light. Lin Xian had seen it more than once. Now that it was being used by a 6-star king, it was extremely terrifying. The chaotic light was like lightning, erupting with resplendent light. The tyrannical power directly tore through the void. With intense killing intent, it ruthlessly blasted toward Lin Xian. The middle-aged man had a smug smile on his face. He was very confident in his chaotic light. One had to know that he was a 6-star king, and the other party was only a 4-star king. The difference between the two of them was like heaven and earth. In his opinion, with just one chaotic light, he could even kill the other party. The main reason they had come this time was to kill Lu Mingyue. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent so many experts to deal with a 4-star king. Humph! Facing the extremely resplendent, chaotic light, Lin Xian sneered. In the next moment, he punched out. The terrifying fist carried violent power, and it was like a black mountain moving rapidly in the air. Boom! The black fist ruthlessly blasted on the chaotic light, directly shattering that resplendent light. The middle-aged man was stunned. He didn't expect this outcome. The others were also stunned. They didn't expect the other party to be able to destroy the chaotic light so easily. Buzz! Lin Xian didn't stop after shattering the chaotic light with a punch. He took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of the middle-aged man. Then he stretched out a finger and pointed forward. Oh no! Seeing Lin Xian attack, the middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. Although Lin Xian only stretched out a finger, the terrifying sword qi on it made his hair stand on end. Even the blood in his body froze. Puff! When the finger landed on the middle-aged man coughed up a mouthful of blood and flew backward. A transparent bloody hole appeared on his body. Everyone was stunned. Their eyes were wide open, unable to believe what they were seeing. A 4-star king had easily injured a 6-star king. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. Damn it! How can this brat have such a powerful strength? We underestimated this kid. Could it be that he caught Lu Mingyue head-on? Thinking of this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. A look of shock appeared in their eyes. They were indeed careless. They didn't care about the other party at all. This time, they came prepared to deal with Lu Mingyue with all their strength. However, it seemed that the situation wasn't like that at all. The other party's strength was definitely not inferior to Lu Mingyue's. At least, none of them could defeat the middle-aged man so easily. The middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. He clutched his wound, as if he had seen a ghost. He was extremely frightened. However, he didn't have time to think, because Lin Xian appeared in front of him again. He raised his arm, and a resplendent sword light streaked across the void. Boom! The middle-aged man flew backward again, and the injuries on his body were even more serious. That sword light almost split his body into 2 halves. The middle-aged man was hit twice and roared crazily. His entire body emitted light, and he quickly absorbed the surrounding spirit qi to heal the wounds on his body. At the same time, he took out 6 pills from his storage ring and quickly swallowed them. Finally, the wound stopped, but his face was abnormally pale. "How dare you hurt me? I'll definitely kill you," the 6-star king roared crazily. When had he suffered such a loss at the hands of a 4-star king? Therefore, he was really angry. In the next moment, light erupted from his body, and a huge king's domain covered the sky and enveloped Lin Xian. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions. The 6-star king also appeared in the domain. Chapter 1808. Standing in the air, he looked down at Lin Xian and coldly said, "In my king domain, I will make you wish you were dead." He had already decided that he wouldn't let Lin Xian die so easily. However, Lin Xian coldly snorted and used the world-destroying Black Dragon Fist. His terrifying fist transformed into a raging dragon that soared into the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Instantly, millions of raging black dragons flew out from Lin Xian's fist and rapidly crashed into the king domain. Ka, ka, ka. In an instant, countless cracks appeared on the king domain. Then, the king domain was forcefully torn apart by the millions of raging dragons. How is this possible? Everyone didn't dare to believe what they saw. As for the middle-aged man, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. His body was sent flying once more. The radiance on his body dimmed. Shocking. This was simply too shocking. He hadn't expected that his ultimate move, the king domain, would be blasted apart by his opponent. This was something he had never encountered in his life. Who would have thought that a 4-star king would possess such a powerful battle prowess? Even a 6-star king wouldn't be able to easily blast apart his king domain. However, Lin Xian had done so easily. "It's over!" Lin Xian coldly snorted and extended his finger. A sharp sword light descended from the sky and directly pierced through the 6-star king. Lin Xian had used a total of 4 moves to kill a 6-star king. This method was truly heaven-defying. When the surrounding All Beginnings Holy Lands cultivators saw this scene, they were extremely shocked. As for the youth from before, his expression turned gloomy. He discovered that his opponent was simply too powerful. This caused him to feel extremely uneasy. Therefore, he decided that he had to quickly kill Lin Xian. "Go! Kill him for me!" the youth crazily roared. Immediately, over a dozen figures in the surroundings moved rapidly and launched terrifying attacks at Lin Xian. "Brat, you're too arrogant. You actually dare to kill an expert of my All Beginnings Holy Land in front of everyone. So what if you're strong? In front of so many of us, you have no way to survive. Kneel down and accept your death. If you do, I can give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll let you have a taste of what it means to wish you were dead." 5 figures were the first to arrive. Their expressions were cold, and their bodies were filled with immense power and terrifying killing intent. Facing the 5 powerful people, Lin Xian did not say anything. He pulled out the 9-nether devil sword and stabbed out. This sword strike was simple and unadorned. It didn't even have any resplendent light or the sound of thunder. It was like an ordinary sword slowly thrusting out. However, it was this ordinary sword technique that caused the expressions of the surrounding kings to change. This was because they sensed a hidden danger from this simple and unadorned sword light. It made their hearts jump and their hairs stand on end. They knew that this sword strike was much more terrifying than they had imagined. The 5 of them roared as a powerful energy erupted from their bodies. They wanted to join forces and kill Lin Xian. However, they still underestimated this sword. This was because this was a sword technique that Lin Xian had comprehended over the past 6 months. Puff! 1 sword. Just 1 stab. Heaven and earth changed color, and blood sprayed everywhere. 5 miserable cries sounded, making the remaining king tiers' scalps go numb. The figures of the 5 kings stopped in the void, and then crashed to the ground. There was a bloody hole in between their eyebrows. It was pierced through by a sword. Not only their bodies, but even their souls had been wiped out in an instant. This scene caused the hearts of the remaining kings to turn cold. What kind of sword technique was this? How could it kill 5 powerful kings in an instant? It was too terrifying. The arrogant young man also began to tremble. He had long lost his previous arrogance, and his eyes were filled with fear. This was because he had never seen such a terrifying sword technique. How did he do it? Damn it! All of you, kill him together! The young man roared crazily as he kept retreating and issuing orders. Kill! The remaining 8 emperors exchanged glances with one another before roaring furiously. Terrifying auras surged over like smoke signals, bringing with them terrifying light that illuminated the entire sky. This time, they had received orders from their sects to kill the other party. Therefore, no matter how powerful the other party was, they had to attack. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying energy exploded in an instant. Lin Xian waved his arm, and a green domain quickly appeared behind him, enveloping the 8 kings. Buzz. Sword chi swept across the sky, and it was extremely sharp. The terrifying sword Qi was like lightning quickly streaking across the sky. Intense collisions sounded, and then quickly disappeared. This process lasted for a very short time. Before the arrogant young man could react, Lin Xian had already removed the dragon sword domain. Then, the 8 kings' bodies fell from the sky. Their bodies were penetrated by countless sword qi, and they were no longer breathing. In the face of the dragon sword domain, they had no power to resist at all. Impossible! This is impossible! The arrogant young man's eyes widened in disbelief. The kings he had brought were all extremely terrifying. They were the elites of their sections. Every one of them could make the entire space tremble. But now, these people attacked together, and they couldn't even take down a 4-star king? This was simply too unbelievable. Not only that, so many elites were killed in an instant. He couldn't believe it at all. Now, it's your turn. Lin Xian held the 9 darkness demonic sword in his hand. He looked like a killing god as his cold eyes locked onto the young man. Brat, if you dare to touch me, you're dead. My sister is already the saint of all beginnings. The young man gnashed his teeth. He didn't dare to attack at all, afraid that the other party would kill him instantly. Therefore, he could only use his sister to intimidate the other party. The saint of all beginnings was a peak existence among the younger generation of the Eastern Wilderness. Moreover, she might become the master of the all beginnings holy land in the future. Therefore, even the older generation and almighties had to be polite when facing the saint of all beginnings. This was because she was the future master of the all beginnings holy land. However, such a glorious identity was ineffective in front of Lin Xian. So, what if she's the saint of all beginnings? Even if you're the saint of all beginnings' younger brother, I'll still kill you. Lin Xian didn't even bat an eye at the threat. He had even killed almighties before, let alone the younger brother of a saint. My sister is in a nearby city. If you dare to touch her, you're dead. The young man made a final struggle. She's nearby. Hearing this, Lin Xian raised his eyebrows. He originally wanted to kill the other party, but now he changed his mind. Since the other party was nearby, he had to kill them all in one fell swoop. This was to prevent those people from gathering more experts. Therefore, in the next moment, Lin Xian put away his demonic sword and coldly looked at the other party. Seeing the other party suddenly stop and put away his demonic sword, the young man was stunned. Then he laughed proudly. Chapter 1809. In the next instant, Lin Xian put away his demonic sword and coldly looked at the youth. Seeing Lin Xian suddenly stop and put away his demonic sword, the youth was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed complacently. How is it, kid? Are you afraid now? If you know what's good for you, then quickly release me. Otherwise, you're dead. Obediently kneel on the ground and kowtow to me. Then hand over Lu Mingyue, and I can consider giving you a quick death. Otherwise, before the youth could finish his words, Lin Xian slapped him and sent him flying. Asterisk pa. Asterisk, the youth's body spun 360 times in the air before heavily crashing into the ground, creating a large crater. What an idiot! A trash like you dares to be arrogant in front of me? Watch your mouth. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Lin Xian coldly snorted. Asterisk woo-woo. Asterisk, the youth covered his face and quickly nodded. He no longer dared to say anything because this slap had smashed half of his face into mush. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. The youth felt Lin Xian's gaze and hurriedly shook his head. If I don't kill you, you can take me with you. I'm going to find your sister. And the others. Lin Xian's voice was ice cold. Then he grabbed the arrogant youth and quickly flew toward the nearby city. Blue Pole City, a Tao field of the All Beginnings Holy Land. It occupied a vast area, as big as a city. Moreover, The buildings inside were majestic, and the scenery was pleasant. Spiritual energy filled the air, making it seem like a paradise on earth. The All Beginnings Holy Daughter was here with a large number of experts from the All Beginnings Holy Land. In front of the huge city gate, some guards were chatting and laughing. These guards wore battle armor and held spears in their hands. Their auras were extremely sharp. Little young master has been out for so long. He should be back soon, right? Looking at the time, he should have caught that kid surnamed Lin. Little young master brought so many experts with him, let alone that kid surnamed Lin. Even a small sect would be destroyed. That kid surnamed Lin is too arrogant. He actually dared to provoke our All Beginnings Holy Land. It seems he doesn't know the difference between life and death. The guard sneered. Asterisk pung. Asterisk, however. At this moment, a black shadow descended from the sky and smashed onto the ground. Suddenly, dust flew into the air, and the ground trembled slightly. The conversation of the guards was interrupted, and they all looked in front of them, bewildered. Who dares to behave atrociously in the All Beginnings Holy Land? Hurry up and come out. These people held swords and sabers as they shouted coldly. The dust dispersed, revealing the face of a young man. Immediately, the faces of the guards changed. Young master, they were extremely shocked because they didn't expect that the figure in front of them was actually the young master they were talking about. That was the younger brother of their saintess. Didn't they go to kill Lin Xian and Lu Mingyue? Why are they back so soon? And what about the others? Why is the young master in such a sorry state, falling directly to the ground? These people were extremely puzzled. However, in the next moment, their eyes widened, as if they had seen a ghost. That was because another figure had descended from the sky. It was a young man who was extremely handsome. He wore a green robe and looked like an immortal. He had an ethereal aura about him. He quickly landed on the ground and stepped on the young master's head with one foot. Damn it! Who are you? How dare you injure the young master? Impudent! Hurry up and get lost! Angry roars rang out one after another. However, when they saw the other party, they were all stunned. It's you? You're that Lin Xian. You're not dead? How is this possible? Heavens, how could this be? Didn't the young master bring a dozen experts to chase after them? Why is the other party still alive? And the young master is seriously injured? To be honest, they were really confused. They didn't know what had happened on the ground in front of them. The young master said with difficulty, "Inform my sister and save me." Yes. Hearing this, two of the guards turned around and left. They turned into two bolts of lightning and flew inside. They wanted to inform the saintess of All Beginnings, because the situation in front of them was too strange. Puff, puff. However, in the next moment, their bodies stiffened, and they fell to the ground with a plop. Blood flowed out from between their eyebrows. Lin Xian slowly lowered his arm and said coldly, "You want to inform the saintess? No need to go through so much trouble. I'll directly kill my way in." When the remaining guards saw this scene, their scalps went numb. This was too strong. He killed two guards with a raise of his hand. Did he not know that this was the All Beginnings training ground? Was he not afraid of the All Beginnings Holy Land's revenge? Seeing this scene, the young master on the ground roared crazily, "Are you all trash? Hurry up and kill him." Hearing this voice, the guards came back to their senses. They pulled out their swords and pointed them at Lin Xian. Lin Xian frowned and said coldly, "If you don't want to die, scram." "Brat, you're too arrogant. This is the All Beginnings training ground. You can't behave atrociously here." The guards were obviously powerful kings as well. In the next moment, they quickly unleashed their king's domains and enveloped Lin Xian. Wung, wung, wung. In an instant, 5 or 6 king domains enveloped Lin Xian. terrifying energy blasted out in all directions. Ha ha ha! What Lin Xian! What genius! Surrounded by so many king domains, he can't resist at all. That's right. He's really an idiot. He wants to fight against all of us alone. Too naive. From now on, Lin Xian's name is history. These people sneered and strode forward, wanting to save the young master. Pung! Suddenly, a sharp sword light flashed in the void. Then, all the king domains were quickly torn apart. Pung! 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 The guards' bodies instantly exploded, turning into a bloody mist. No! Damn it! How can this be? When the young master saw this scene, he roared crazily. However, in the next moment, his voice stopped. This was because a sword chi had pierced through him and nailed him to the ground. Young master, from the door in front of him, a flash of light quickly flew over. It was like a gust of wind, carrying a huge amount of energy. Brat, how dare you? In the gust of wind, an angry roar sounded. It was like thunder that resounded in all directions. Then, a large green palm stretched out from the gust of wind and ruthlessly slapped toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian's expression was indifferent as he stabbed out with his sword. Pooh! In the next instant, the large green palm disappeared. The light that filled the sky also dissipated. A figure was nailed in the air by the demonic sword. What? How is this possible? When the kings who had rushed over saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. In front of them, Lin Xian stood there like a killing god. He held the demonic sword in his hand and pierced through the All Beginnings Holy Lands expert. That was a 6-star king. Just like that, he was nailed in the air. This scene caused the surrounding people to not dare to believe their eyes. At this moment, they were all stunned. They didn't dare to make a move. Lin Xian's expression was ice cold. He held the demonic sword in his hand and carried that 6-star king as he walked forward. Chapter 1810. Pung, 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 pung. His footsteps were like thunder, carrying the weight of a mountain that pressed down on everyone's hearts. With every step he took, everyone's hearts would beat wildly, and their bodies would tremble as though they were about to explode. Whoosh! The cultivators who had rushed over to help forcibly opened up a path in front of Lin Xian. No one dared to block him. At this moment, the city gate was completely silent. An invisible pressure enveloped everyone's head. Humph! Lin Xian snorted coldly. His long sword trembled, releasing a black sword chi that nailed the 6-star king to the city wall. Then he strode into the city. What happened here quickly alerted the experts. In the city, many figures rushed over from the city like gods and demons. Who is it? How dare you behave so atrociously in my all-beginning training ground? Quickly kneel down and accept your death. Cold shouts resounded. Then, in the huge square, terrifying fists, saber lights, and terrifying palm shadows all blasted toward Lin Xian. Facing such a terrifying attack, Lin Xian still stabbed out with his sword. The black demonic sword was like a mountain, causing the entire void to distort. Not only that, but a terrifying gust of wind blew between heaven and earth. Every gust of wind was formed by the sword light and was extremely sharp. Pung, pung, pung. In an instant, the terrifying attacks that filled the sky were all slashed apart by the sword. The 4 figures in the sky were shaken out of their positions. Their faces were filled with shock, as though they had seen a ghost. They didn't dare to believe that someone could slash apart all their attacks with a single sword, unless the other party was an almighty. However, the youth in front of them didn't have the aura of an almighty. In other words, the other party wasn't an almighty. But how did he do it? Lin Xian didn't answer their questions. Instead, he strode forward. The demonic sword in his hand transformed into a long black dragon. Sword chi danced, and a terrifying sword light surged out again like a black sea that swept out in all directions. Boom! The sword light was too terrifying, causing the entire space to dim. Not only that, the four figures were instantly sliced apart, as though they had been struck by lightning. The four experts didn't even have the chance to resist in front of Lin Xian. The kings who had just arrived felt their scalps go numb upon seeing this. Fortunately, they didn't make a move earlier. Otherwise, they would have ended up the same as now. However, they were even more terrified in their hearts. Is he really just a puny four-star king? Why is his combat strength almost on par with that of a mighty figure? However, this was the all-beginning Dao grounds after all. There were countless experts here, so more experts quickly rushed over. Wang. This time, an old figure descended. The old man's face was flushed red, and his figure was tall. Although he was old, the aura he exuded was as vast as the ocean. He was much more powerful than the previous kings. Clearly, this was a terrifying expert. Behind this old man, there were many powerful kings of 10,000 beginnings. They quickly descended like gods and devils, suppressing the surroundings. The purple-robed elder's eyes were like lightning as he scanned the surroundings. Then his face darkened. Finally, he glared at Lin Xian, his eyes burning with rage. "Brat, who are you? How dare you do such a thing? Are you not afraid of the revenge of my all-beginning holy land?" "Who am I?" Lin Xian sneered. "You sent people to kill me, but you don't even know who I am? Impossible." The purple-robed elder shook his head, his expression ice-cold. "You can't be that, brat. He's just a puny four-star king. It's impossible for him to have such powerful combat strength. Who are you? Why are you making an enemy out of the all-beginning holy land? What an idiot!" Lin Xian sneered and shook his head. "I am Lin Xian. Today, I'm here to take your dog lives." After saying that, the sword light on Lin Xian's body became even more dazzling. "You're courting death. No matter who you are, since you dare to provoke my all-beginning holy land, you won't have a good ending." The purple-robed elder's expression was incomparably gloomy. Purple flames danced on his body, and his terrifying aura caused everyone in the surroundings to tremble. It was clear that he was angry. Although the surrounding kings were trembling, they were excited. After all, they knew how strong the purple-robed elder was. As long as he made a move, he would definitely be able to kill this despicable brat. Sure enough, the purple-robed elder waved his hand. Countless rays of light condensed in front of him, forming a simple and unadorned circular mirror. Mysterious runes flickered on the surface of the mirror. Buzz! A resplendent ray of light rushed out from the surface of the mirror. Like a bolt of lightning, it pierced through the void and flew toward Lin Xian at high speed. This was a powerful martial technique that could easily kill a six-star king. Very few people below the realm of supreme existences could contend against it. The purple-robed elder was truly infuriated by the person in front of him. Therefore, he immediately used his ultimate move to kill the brat in front of him. Humph! Lin Xian held his sword and took a step forward. His left hand was like a dragon as he punched out. Light soared into the sky, and a berserk aura surged like the sea. Pung! This punch directly shattered that resplendent ray of light. Boom! Not only that, but the terrifying fist wind formed a powerful energy that surged forward. Immediately, the unadorned circular mirror filled with runes was also affected. The purple-robed elder's expression changed. Although the other party had only punched once, he could clearly feel the terrifying power of the other party's punch. One punch had dealt with his divine ability. He had to admit that this was absolutely beyond his imagination. "You're courting death. Brat, you're too presumptuous." The purple-robed elder flew into a rage. The other party was still so arrogant in their territory. If this news spread, he would definitely be ridiculed by the world. Therefore, he had to use all his strength to kill the other party. Buzz. The void trembled. The purple-robed elder waved his hand, and a long purple saber appeared in the void. It flickered with incomparably resplendent rays of light and slashed forward. Puff. The purple saber light was like a bolt of purple lightning, illuminating the entire sky. Humph! Lin Xian snorted coldly. He was not afraid at all as he raised his sword to meet the attack. His goal was obvious. He wanted to destroy the All Beginnings training ground and capture the Saint of All Beginnings. Buzz. A terrifying sword light soared into the sky with an incomparably sharp aura. Since obtaining the Dragon Sword secret technique, Lin Xian's great dragon sword soul had become even more powerful. Now, every ray of sword chi was like a giant dragon. It was abnormally terrifying. Boom! The saber and sword collided, and an earth-shattering sound reverberated in all directions. Crack! 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 Countless cracks appeared in the void, unable to withstand this power. Not only that, the incomparably frightening purple blade light exploded like a crystal in an instant. Lin Xian waved his arm, which was like a dragon, and quickly stabbed out. Damn it! The purple-robed elder's expression turned ugly, but in the next moment, a tyrannical power erupted from his body again. The purple saber in his hand was like a purple sun as it quickly swung out. This time, the saber light was even larger. It connected the heavens and the earth, and triggered a vision of heaven and earth. Moreover, this purple saber light was filled with countless chaotic chi. Chapter 1811. It was as heavy as a mountain, seemingly capable of collapsing the entire space. This is the primal chaos saber technique. When the surrounding cultivators saw this, they were wild with joy. They knew that this was the All Beginnings Holy Land's ability. Now that the purple-clothed old man had used it, it was incomparably terrifying. Very few six-star kings would be able to resist it. Presumably, that brat Lin Xian wouldn't be able to resist it either. One sword breaking all techniques, facing the powerful purple-clothed old man, Lin Xian's performance was even stronger. He didn't try to dodge at all. Instead, he directly slashed out with his sword, forcibly resisting the purple saber light that filled the sky. Boom, boom, boom. A huge explosion occurred in the sky, and terrifying energy swept out in all directions. The black sword light slashed down from the sky, shattering everything in its path. Those terrifying purple saber lights were mercilessly torn apart like paper. Not only that, but the purple saber was also cleaved in half. What? Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. They didn't dare to believe their eyes. The purple-clothed old man was even more shocked. Not only had his attack been destroyed, but his entire body had also been enveloped by a sharp sword light. No. The purple-clothed old man roared crazily. 18 simple shields rushed out of his body and rapidly revolved around him, trying to resist. Ka, ka, ka. In the next instant, the 18 simple purple shields exploded. As for the purple-clothed old man, he was also cleaved in half by the sword light. He was killed again. Seeing this scene, the surrounding cultivators all went crazy. What kind of person was this? This was too crazy. Could this person really be a 4-star king? They didn't dare to imagine this. They even suspected that this youth in front of them was an almighty in disguise. His goal was to heavily injure their All Beginnings Holy Land. Damn it! This brat is too arrogant. Everyone, attack together. Kill him. The kings that had followed the purple-clothed old man earlier all roared furiously. They couldn't accept this result. Thus, they decided to attack together. As for Lin Xian, his black hair fluttered in the wind. He looked like a demon god. He held the nine-nether demonic sword in his hand and slashed out a crescent-shaped black sword light that rapidly streaked across the sky. The kings that wanted to attack didn't even have a chance to do so before they were killed. As for the others, they all felt their scalps go numb and did not dare to attack again. How were they supposed to fight? The other party was simply too strong. They were beaten to the point where they couldn't fight back at all. Perhaps only the Saintess herself or an almighty expert would be able to suppress him. Who are you? How dare they cause trouble here, disturbing the Saintess's cultivation? At this moment, a cold shout rang out. Then a figure descended from the sky like a long spear. Senior Wang Ping. Many people cried out in surprise when they saw that figure, and all of them were overjoyed. The person who descended from the sky was a youth. Although he had a young appearance, his status in the All Beginnings Holy Land was extremely noble. Even the purple-robed old man from before was no match for him. That was because Wang Ping was one of the candidates. He was extremely powerful and had a very good relationship with the new Saintess of All Beginnings. So, he was also here at this moment. The moment Wang Ping landed, he frowned. This was because he discovered that there was a lot of blood around him, as well as the corpses of their Holy Land's experts. This caused his expression to darken. "What's going on?" he asked coldly. "Is there a powerful being here?" Truth be told, this kind of thing would normally never happen in their All Beginnings Holy Land. After all, they were a peerless holy land that no one dared to provoke. But now, so many experts had been killed. This shocked him greatly. "Senior Wang Ping, you must avenge us. It's that brat. He's the one who killed so many experts." Everyone pointed at Lin Xian. "What? It's him?" Wang Ping was shocked. His gaze finally landed on Lin Xian. Truth be told, he hadn't paid any attention to the other party before. After all, the other party's aura was only that of a late 4-star king. This kind of cultivation was nothing in the All Beginnings Holy Land. Thus, he hadn't taken it to heart. However, he did not expect that the scene before him was caused by someone he had neglected. This gave him an inconceivable feeling. He even suspected that he had misheard. But in the next moment, his expression darkened and an ice-cold killing intent appeared in his eyes. That was because Lin Xian shouted in front of him, "Who are you? Hurry up and tell your Saintess to come out." Arrogant. The other party was simply too arrogant. He actually dared to come to their doorstep and shout so arrogantly in their territory. He couldn't tolerate this. "Brat, who are you?" Wang Ping coldly snorted. "Senior brother, he's that little thief Lin Xian." A nearby disciple hastily reminded him. "What? He's that Lin Xian?" Wang Ping was stunned for a moment. Then, a sinister expression appeared on his face. He wasn't unfamiliar with this name. That was because the Wavering Light Holy Land had issued a warrant for Lin Xian's arrest. Moreover, not long ago, news had spread that Lin Xian had captured their All Beginnings Holy Land's genius Lu Mingyue. Thus, many disciples in the All Beginnings Holy Land considered Lin Xian to be a demon. They wished that they could personally kill him. However, Wang Ping hadn't expected that Lin Xian would actually appear here. "So, you're that Lin Xian?" Wang Ping frowned. Although the other party had only revealed the cultivation of a late 4-star king, his strength had already surpassed the majority of 6-star kings. "Brat, I have to admit that you're very smart. You actually suppressed your cultivation to that of a 4-star king and fooled so many experts. However, it's a pity that your little tricks are useless before me." Wang Ping coldly said. In his opinion, the reason why Lin Xian had been able to kill so many experts was because he had concealed his cultivation. This had caused the All Beginnings Holy Lands cultivators to be careless. Thus, Lin Xian had been able to kill them. As for Wang Ping, he absolutely wouldn't fall for such a trick. Concealed my cultivation? Lin Xian's lips curled into a disdainful smile. He wasn't concealing his cultivation. Instead, he was truly a late four-star king. However, there was no need to tell Wang Ping about this. In the next instant, Lin Xian tightened his grip on the demonic sword and coldly said, "Since you're not willing to call out your holy maiden, I can only go and find her myself." "Humph, with just you? Brat, if you want to find the holy maiden, you'll have to pass through me first," Wang Ping coldly shouted. As one of the late holy sons, he was extremely powerful and incomparably terrifying. Thus, at this moment, he didn't place Lin Xian in his eyes. "Since you dare to block my path, I can only kill you. Then I'll look for the holy maiden of all beginnings." Lin Xian's voice was indifferent as he took large strides forward. "You're courting death." Wang Ping was truly enraged. He couldn't tolerate Lin Xian's casual attitude. When had he ever been looked down upon like this? Primal Chaos Treasure Wheel. With a furious shout, a radiance that filled the sky condensed in his right hand, forming a huge wheel that rapidly rotated. That wheel was formed entirely from primal chaos energy and was incomparably terrifying. As it rotated, it carried the might of wind and thunder, capable of easily shattering the void. Chapter 1812. The Dharma Wheel was completely formed by the chaotic chi and was extremely terrifying. As it spun, it carried the power of wind and thunder and could easily shatter the void. Buzz. Wang Ping activated the huge Dharma Wheel and slashed at Lin Xian. Lin Xian waved the long sword in his hand, and the great dragon sword soul in his body quickly revolved. An extremely powerful force surged out. It followed the nine-nether demonic sword and swept forward. The nine-nether demonic sword trembled and let out a tsunami-like sound, blooming with bright light. The entire demonic sword seemed to have come alive like a living black dragon, and its terrifying aura was overwhelming. It caused the entire space to boil. As the long sword was waved, thousands of sword lights burst out and completely enveloped the entire space. Buzz. On the other side, Wang Ping's expression changed drastically. In his vision, everything around him had disappeared, and there was only a black long sword between heaven and earth. It was extremely terrifying as it pierced towards him. Boom, boom. This sword was too powerful, and it caused the entire space to shake violently. Poof. Wang Ping's body was pierced through by the sword. Blood spurted out and dyed the sky red. However, Lin Xian didn't even look at him as he strode forward. At this moment, he had the aura of killing gods and Buddhas in his way. Nothing could stop him. The surrounding experts from the Holy Lands were all trembling, their faces filled with fear. They were like a tide, quickly opening a path for him. Powerful. He was simply too powerful. Facing a saint candidate, he killed him with a single sword. This method was heaven-defying. This was definitely a terrifying killing god. Perhaps only a true saint or saintess could subdue him. Lin Xian held the nine-nether demonic sword and strode forward. Wherever he passed, no one stopped him. Not only that, but there were also drops of blood flowing on the nine-nether demonic sword and dripping onto the ground. With the killing sword in hand, Lin Xian was completely unstained. This contrast made everyone's scalp tingle. They even had to kneel on the ground. Was he really just a four-star king? Some people were puzzled. They did not dare to believe that a four-star king could have such powerful combat strength. They even suspected that this was definitely a saint-level figure. Lin Xian came to the front and looked up. In front of them was a continuous stretch of palaces that were incomparably majestic. The one in the center was like a celestial palace surrounded by dazzling light. This should be the All Beginnings Holy Land, the place where the saint is cultivated. Lin Xian stopped and looked ahead, finally locking onto the palace in front of him. Then he took another step forward and walked over. The surrounding experts of the All Beginnings Holy Land also followed behind him. Whoosh, whoosh. Seeing Lin Xian walk over, countless figures quickly appeared around the palace, each of them extremely powerful. It was filled with a murderous aura. They looked coldly at Lin Xian. "Who are you? Hurry up and get lost. Otherwise, don't blame us for starting a massacre." These people were all elites among kings, and they were in charge of protecting the saintess. Therefore, they naturally did not allow anyone to cause trouble near the palace. "Tell your holy maiden to come out." Lin Xian held the blood-dripping killing sword in his hand, his voice incomparably cold. Hearing this, everyone around him sucked in a cold breath. As for the guards in front, their expressions sank. The saintess of All Beginnings was the future master of the All Beginnings Holy Land. She was high and mighty, and everyone had to respect her. But now, someone actually dared to speak such arrogant words. This was outrageous. It was truly shocking. "Brat, who are you? You dare to cause trouble here? Are you tired of living? Hurry up and get lost. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. You dare to insult the saintess? Slap your face 100 times, break your arms, and I can spare your life." Cold voices rang out one after another. Clearly, these people were angered. Lin Xian slowly raised his arm and pointed the blood-dripping killing sword in front of him. "Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being impolite." Sharp sword energy erupted from Lin Xian's body once again, like a peerless divine sword. It rapidly slashed in all directions. Seeing that Lin Xian wanted to attack again, the expressions of the guards in front of him sank, and their eyes burned with anger. A terrifying aura surged from their bodies, and like a flood, it instantly enveloped the entire space. "Kill." One of them, a middle-aged man in armor, stepped out. His entire person was like a god of war, extremely powerful. In his hand, there was a golden spear, like the sun shining brightly. With a thrust of the spear, the golden light burst out, piercing through the void, turning into countless golden waves that surged over. The entire sky was dyed golden, like a golden beach, emitting scorching energy. Slash. In the face of such a powerful attack, Lin Xian's expression was calm. Behind him, the dragon sword realm appeared and enveloped him. He quickly raised his arm, waved the 9 Serenities demonic sword, and slashed down. Buzz. A terrifying sword light shot into the sky, as if it could topple mountains and overturn seas, filling the entire space. This sword descended quickly, as if it was not a long sword, but the entire sky, quickly pressing down. It was incomparably dark, like the 9 Serenities demonic realm, causing people's hearts to tremble. A spear and a sword collided in the air, and violent energy annihilated the void. "Not good. Retreat." The surrounding warriors' faces changed drastically, and they frantically retreated. This was because this energy was enough to shatter them. Boom, boom. At the same time, the other guards moved quickly, attacking wildly. 9 chaos banners appeared in their hands. They fluttered in the wind and made flapping sounds. Like 9 mountains, they appeared in the void, firmly locking onto Lin Xian. Terrifying energy burst out, and chaos energy filled the entire square, forming a strange vortex. Boom, boom. In the next moment, the 9 chaos flags landed, nailed to the ground, and formed a strange array, completely enveloping Lin Xian. strange, chaotic qi gushed out, forming streaks of sharp killing intent that surrounded Lin Xian. Boom, boom. Lin Xian waved his arm, and the Dragon Sword realm quickly expanded, contending against the 9 chaos flags. The two collided, and the sound of metal colliding rang out. Sparks flew in the sky, as bright as shooting stars. At this moment, the powerful middle-aged man attacked again. The golden spear seemed to have turned into a golden dragon, roaring out. Buzz! Lin Xian's body was completely integrated into the Dragon Sword realm. In the next moment, a huge sword qi soared into the sky, like a huge dragon, and quickly slashed forward. There was a powerful aura that could destroy heaven and earth. Not only that, the Dragon Sword realm swept out, forming a black sword wave, spreading out in all directions. Clang! The black sword qi was like an ancient, demonic mountain, directly shattering the golden light in the sky. The powerful middle-aged man was sent flying, as if he was struck by lightning. Meanwhile, the black sword ripples swept across the place and sliced the 9 chaos flags in half. Chapter 1813. The 9 chaos banners were slashed in half at the waist and turned into nothing. The array that trapped Lin Xian was also broken in an instant. Without the threat of the chaos array, Lin Xian snorted coldly. With the killing sword in hand, he charged forward like a ray of light. Soon, he arrived in front of the middle-aged man. The demonic sword was dripping with blood as it quickly slashed down. The middle-aged man's face was pale. He could feel the terrifying killing intent from the demonic sword. In the next moment, he roared angrily. A ray of chaotic light rushed out of his body and quickly condensed in front of him. Boom! The light of primal chaos transformed into a figure that was identical to him. It blocked the shocking sword strike for him. He quickly retreated. Countless rays of light rushed out of his body and brought him to a safe distance. Poof! The 9 darkness demonic sword descended and split the figure formed by the chaotic light. Substitution technique. Lin Xian raised his eyebrows in surprise. He did not expect the middle-aged man to have such a life-saving technique. The middle-aged man's face was very ugly. This was his life-saving technique that could save his life in a crisis. However, he had used it now. Next, he had to fight with all his strength. If he was stabbed by the demonic sword again, he would not be able to escape. The middle-aged man's face was very ugly. He did not expect his opponent to be so powerful and push him into such a desperate situation. In the next moment, his fingers formed a strange, ancient seal. Chaotic qi that filled the skies surged out of his body, transforming into 9 ancient runes that revolved around him. Each rune carried a mysterious power as if it had transcended time and space. It was filled with a shocking aura. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The middle-aged man waved his hand. The 9 ancient runes shone brightly and shot into the sky. A terrifying aura instantly erupted and surged forward. Humph! Facing such a strange attack, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He waved the 9 darkness demonic sword again. The sword qi flashed into thousands of sword shadows and completely covered the area in front of him. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing could be heard. The terrifying sword qi slashed on the 9 ancient runes, creating an earth-shattering collision sound. It was like a powerful army that shook the void. Boom! The 9 ancient runes that flickered with light exploded in front of everyone's shocked expressions. What? How is this possible? The middle-aged man was completely dumbfounded. These 9 runes were one of his secret techniques. It was incomparably terrifying. Each rune was capable of killing a 6-star king. When the 9 runes appeared together, its power was even more terrifying. But now, it had been shattered by someone in an instant. It was unbelievable. There was even a trace of fear in his eyes. This was because the young man before him was the strangest person he had ever met. He didn't even feel this way when he faced the saint of all beginnings. Although he was terrified, he would not give up. He would never allow Lin Xian to interfere with the Holy Maiden. So, in the next moment, he roared and grabbed the golden spear again. This golden spear was about 3 meters long and was extremely dazzling. Mysterious patterns were engraved on it, and it was filled with power. This was an Earth-rank artifact that had been tempered by him for hundreds of years. Under his control, the golden light formed a radiance that enveloped him. The long spear was like a dragon as it moved out once again. Stubborn, Lin Xian snorted coldly and used dragonate steps. His entire body was extremely fast. The 9-nether demonic sword in his hand turned into a black flash and streaked across the sky. Clang! The sword chi was sharp and cut through the golden light in the sky. The 9-nether demonic sword collided with the golden spear and sent it flying. Puff! Then the demonic sword pierced into the middle-aged man's body. The terrifying sword chi was like a violent current, completely destroying the middle-aged man. Plop! The middle-aged man's body fell. The light in the sky disappeared, and the surroundings were silent. This was too shocking. Was he really going to force the Saintess out? They didn't dare to imagine. If this was true, then this would definitely be a shocking event. This was because another prodigy of the Holy Sun level had appeared. Everyone looked forward and stared at Lin Xian. However, at this moment, the void fluctuated violently. Then, a huge vortex appeared in the sky and spun rapidly, forming a strange phenomenon between heaven and earth. A terrifying aura spread out from the vortex and quickly descended. It was as if the 9 heavenly stars were falling. It was incomparably terrifying. The terrifying energy swept out in all directions, shrouding Lin Xian in an instant. Pung, pung, pung. Just this energy alone made many kings kneel on the ground. They couldn't resist at all. How terrifying! The other experts quickly retreated, afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire. Lin Xian frowned and looked up at the sky. The next moment, he used heavenly dragonate steps. His entire body turned into a stream of light and instantly disappeared. Boom! The void where he was originally at was directly shattered into pieces. It's an expert. Lin Xian arrived at a safe place and frowned. This energy was much stronger than any of the previous experts. The surrounding kings of the All Beginnings Holy Land all cried out in alarm, "Saintess! The Saintess has made a move." Their eyes burst with light as hope rose in them again. That's right, the Saintess of All Beginnings had indeed made a move. Sure enough, in the next moment, a figure descended from the huge vortex of spiritual power like a fairy from the 9 heavens. The figure was wearing a blue gauze dress that gave off a clear and transparent feeling. A light purple gauze belt was tied around her shoulders, and her black hair was tied up in a flowing cloud hairpin that casually scattered over her shoulders. A gust of wind blew past, giving off an elegant feeling, as if a fairy had descended to the mortal world. Saintess of All Beginnings? Lin Xian frowned and stared at the figure. He didn't expect the other party to take the initiative to appear. "You're that Lin Xian? I didn't expect you to dare to run wild here." The Saintess of All Beginnings said coldly, "Boy, surrender obediently. You're not my opponent. Also, hand over Lu Mingyue and kneel on the side. I can give you a quick death. Otherwise, your fate will be..." As she spoke, a powerful aura surged from the Saintess of All Beginnings. Hearing these words, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and asked, "You're the Saintess of All Beginnings? I'm very curious. What if I capture you and take you as a maid? I wonder what the All Beginnings Holy Land's reaction will be. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding kings were in an uproar. If this was really the case, it would definitely shock the world. One had to know that the other party had already captured Lu Mingyue. If they also captured the Saintess of All Beginnings, it would definitely pierce through the heavens. The All Beginnings Holy Land's face would be swept to the ground. Sure enough, the Saintess of All Beginnings' expression sank, and she frowned slightly. Boy, I already gave you a very good choice, but you didn't listen. Since that's the case, don't blame me. Chapter 1814. Brat, I've already given you a very good choice, but you didn't listen. Since that's the case, don't blame me. Her voice was cold, as if she were an aloof goddess from the ninth heaven. You want to kill me with just you? Lin Xian coldly snorted and pointed his sword at the sky. Today, I'll capture you and make you my maid. I'd like to see if the All Beginnings Holy Land still dares to cause trouble for me. Humph! Hearing this, the Saintess of All Beginnings coldly snorted. Her eyes were filled with killing intent, and killing intent soared to the sky. The other party actually dared to speak such arrogant words and wanted to make her his maid. How could she endure this? Thus, a terrifying aura surged from her body, and killing intent spread out in all directions. In an instant, the entire space froze. The surrounding temperature rapidly dropped, and the terrifying aura caused everyone to tremble. That brat is too arrogant. He actually dares to provoke the Saintess of our holy land. It seems he doesn't know the difference between life and death. That's right. The Saintess' combat strength is unparalleled, and she even has a supreme treasure in her hand. Even the older generation isn't her match, let alone a mere 4-star king. Just wait. He'll definitely be killed. The Saintess is invincible. Discussions rang out. Clearly, the appearance of the Saintess of All Beginnings had given the surrounding martial artists confidence. Lin Xian stood tall and straight, his black hair fluttering in the wind. He stepped on the void and quickly arrived above the clouds. Streaks of sword chi circled around him like thunderbolts, making faint noises. When he arrived above the clouds, the surrounding clouds instantly collapsed. Nothing could withstand his sword energy. Brat, you dared to kill the people of my All Beginnings holy land. I'll make you pay. The Saintess of All Beginnings' beautiful eyes emitted 2 cold rays of light. They were like sharp lightning that pierced through the void. Her clothes fluttered, and countless streams of chaotic energy tumbled under her feet, forming a lotus platform that supported her. Chaotic light flashed around her, and a sharp aura pierced through the clouds. Terrifying killing intent soared into the sky. Like silver divine dragons, they emitted a terrifying aura that swept out. You're the ones who went too far. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? Lin Xian coldly snorted. A terrifying aura also rushed out from his body, and the 9-held devil sword in his hand flickered with a jet-black light. The long sword vibrated, releasing a thunderous sound that caused the entire space to tremble. Boom, boom. With a sweep of the demonic sword, a terrifying sword chi flew out, resisting the light of chaos. In the next moment, the battle between the two erupted. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions. It was like a tidal wave that kept surging. One had to admit that the Saintess of All Beginnings was truly amazing. For this woman to be able to become the Holy Maiden, her strength must be incomparably powerful. Her strength was no weaker than Lu Mingyue's at all. Furthermore, after becoming the Holy Maiden, she would definitely have the support of her sect. Her current strength was even more unfathomable. Lin Xian had also met his match. With the killing sword in hand, he swung it around, unleashing terrifying sword chi in all directions. The void cracked open and terrifying cracks appeared one after another. Every time the two of them collided, an incomparably powerful energy would erupt, shooting straight into the sky. Not only that, but the terrifying energy also shocked the spectating kings. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Can this brat really contend against the saintess? Impossible! Who the hell is he? How can he have the combat strength of a holy son? Could it be that he's really a holy son who hid his identity and came to provoke us? Exclamations came one after another. Obviously, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. They even guessed that Lin Xian's true identity was very likely to be a holy son of a large sect. The saintess of all beginnings also frowned. After fighting with him, she could naturally perceive the terrifying strength of her opponent. No wonder he could capture Lu Mingyue and kill so many experts. It seemed that he was not opportunistic, but had real strength. However, as the saintess of all beginnings, how could she admit defeat? I have to admit that you're indeed very strong. However, do you really think you can defeat me like this? You're too naive. The saintess of all beginnings sneered. Then she waved her hand, and a white dagger appeared in her hand. The dagger was the size of a palm and was incomplete. It was even covered with many cracks. Obviously, it was a defective product. However, as soon as it appeared, it brought with it a terrifying aura that swept in all directions. Even Lin Xian frowned. This aura was so terrifying that it could even threaten him. His opponent was indeed the saintess of all beginnings. She could take out such a terrifying treasure as soon as she appeared. It's all over. Holding the incomplete dagger, the saintess of all beginnings snorted and waved her hand. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void trembled and then cracked. Rays of golden light swept forward like a divine river from the ninth heaven. This energy was so terrifying that it was like a real Milky Way. It carried with it a terrifying, murderous aura. That power caused the expressions of everyone present to change. Lin Xian also frowned. He flipped his hand and summoned the 10,000 beast ding. Then he kept clapping his hands. Clang, clang. The 10,000 beast ding trembled violently and made a loud sound. Then it quickly became louder. Black light flashed all over the sky, blocking the front. The 10,000 beast ding stood in front of Lin Xian like a black mountain. Clang! The next moment, there was an earth-shattering collision sound. The silver light all over the sky collided with each other and burst into a dazzling light. Countless thunderbolts fell and bombarded all directions. The surrounding palaces turned into dust in an instant. You can block it? Seeing this scene, the saintess of all beginnings was also surprised. She didn't expect her opponent to have such means. The light all over the sky dissipated. Lin Xian's figure appeared. He stood in the void with a cold face. The sword light in his eyes became more and more intense. It was like a peerless divine sword that cut through the void. He took a step forward and swept the saintess of all beginnings with the demon sword in his right hand. The sharp sword light tore through everything. The destructive black dragon fist in his left hand was extremely violent. It was like an angry dragon that rushed forward. The saintess of all beginnings roared angrily. The lotus platform under her feet released chaotic light. The monstrous aura enveloped her whole body. She quickly rushed over. Rumble! With a loud sound, the saintess of all beginnings stretched out a giant palm. The earthy yellow hand was condensed by chaotic aura. It was extremely fierce and grabbed at Lin Xian. The demon sword rose into the air and slashed at the giant hand. At the same time, Lin Xian's eyes emitted two cold lights. The 10,000 beast ding in front of him slowly rotated. At this moment, the sky and earth were spinning, and the sea of anger was rolling backward. The chaotic aura was blocked. The giant hand was covered by the sword Qi and roared. In an instant, the whole space was torn apart. Kill! Lin Xian roared. The sword light was biting cold, and the stars all over the sky flashed. Countless sword Qi, like meteors, streaked across the sky. At this moment, Lin Xian's killing momentum rose to the extreme, causing the world to be in chaos. Chapter 1815. The kings watching the battle all changed their expressions because this aura was too strong. Except for the saintess of all beginnings, no one present could resist this aura. The saintess of all beginnings also looked cold because Lin Xian's sword Qi was like a vast ocean, making her sway like duckweed. She could be knocked over at any time. However, her body emitted a vast amount of chaotic Qi, and the chaotic lotus under her feet bloomed, firmly holding him back. A strong defense guarded her, resisting the terrible sword Qi around her. Even so, she was still swept by a wisp of sword Qi, and a corner of her clothes suddenly flew up in smoke. A sword mark appeared on her jade-like skin. Blood dripped down, dyeing her clothes red. Looking from a distance, there was a different kind of beauty. However, the saintess of all beginnings' expression was cold, and her eyes emitted a strong killing intent. It was incredible that he could hurt her. She couldn't bear it. The next moment, she shouted, and the chaotic light on her body suddenly burst out, sweeping in all directions. For a moment, the whole sky lost its luster. At the same time, a terrifying king's domain instantly enveloped Lin Xian and the whole space. "Boy, you dare to hurt me. I will make you pay a painful price," the saintess of all beginnings said, gritting her teeth. Her voice was so cold that it seemed to freeze the void, making everyone's heart beat wildly. "Humph!" Lin Xian also snorted, unmoved. He held the demon sword in his hand, and the dragon sword domain appeared, and then he completely disappeared into the void. He didn't really disappear, but he used the heavenly dragon's 8 steps, and his speed was too fast. Some kings couldn't catch his trace at all, and they all thought he had disappeared into thin air. The saintess of all beginnings' pupils shrank sharply because his speed was again beyond her expectations. But the next moment, she waved her hand, and countless chaotic light formed a light curtain in front of her. The chaotic lotus under her feet emitted a terrifying aura, which was frightening. The two fought in the air, and it was very terrifying. Moreover, their domains collided one after another, and each time a terrible crack was torn in the void. 6 gods' sword technique. Lin Xian let out a long roar. 6 illusory sword gods rushed out from his domain and cooperated with him as they charged forward. The sword god of the 6 paths required each of them to be formed by a sharp sword Qi, which was extremely terrifying. The void shattered in an instant. The surrounding chaotic light was also annihilated continuously, and it even dimmed significantly. This scene was too terrifying. Lin Xian was like a god of swords. Wherever his sword pointed, everything would be destroyed. Nothing could stop it. Primordial chaos. At the critical moment, the holy maiden of all beginnings shouted. Immediately, her king's domain gave off an incomparably terrifying light as boundless primal chaos Qi surged out and swept out in all directions. In an instant, Lin Xian was trapped. Anger. He was too angry. The saintess of all beginnings' face was gloomy because she didn't expect her opponent to be so strong that he could break her unique skills one after another. Boundless chaotic light condensed in her hand, forming a resplendent lotus. It swept towards Lin Xian, intending to crush Lin Xian. Kill. The sword god of the 6 paths combined to destroy all techniques. Lin Xian let out a long roar, and his whole person was extremely powerful. His body emitted a terrifying sword light, and the sword god of the six paths around him also merged with him. A huge burst of sword chi broke out and soared into the sky. Boom! The long sword swept out, and the black sword chi was like a surging river, instantly slashing towards the resplendent lotus. The next moment, the sound of the mirror breaking was heard, and the lotus formed by countless chaotic light was destroyed in an instant. Even the upper body of the saintess of all beginning was shrouded by the terrifying sword light. No. Seeing this scene, the surrounding kings screamed frantically because they were very worried about the saintess of all beginning. Lin Xian's sword chi was so fierce that it made them shudder with fear. They knew that there were not many people below the almighty realm who could resist it. Boom, boom. The roar in the sky continued flickering, and one black hole after another appeared. Then, in the black hole vortex, a figure appeared. It was the saintess of all beginning. However, when everyone saw the figure, they were all stunned, and their eyes widened in disbelief. The upper body of the saintess of all beginning had been completely cut open, and a terrifying crack had appeared. At the crack, countless mysterious runes flickered and quickly spread throughout the saintess of all beginning's body. A clone. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect that it was just a clone of the saintess of all beginning. The surrounding kings were all stunned as well. Before this, they didn't know that it was just a clone of the saintess of all beginning. It wasn't until now that they saw the situation in front of them that they realized it was a clone. Moreover, it was a magical ability of the all-beginning Holy Land called the Chaos Clone. They didn't expect that the saintess of all beginning had mastered it. In the sky, the saintess of all beginning's clone had an abnormally ferocious expression. She looked at her body that had been cut open, and a cold light burst out from her eyes. Brat, you actually dared to injure this clone of mine? Just wait. When my real body arrives, I will definitely kill you. With that, the Chaos Clone began to change, and the saintess of all beginnings' appearance gradually dimmed. Then her delicate body began to melt, forming a mass of chaos chi. This chaos chi was different from ordinary chaos chi. It was carefully refined by the saintess of all beginning. At this moment, it was incomparably deep and full of power. It turned into a bolt of lightning and quickly rushed down, wanting to kill Lin Xian. Obviously, this clone had been destroyed, so the saintess of all beginning wanted to use the last of her energy to kill Lin Xian. Boom! A terrifying bolt of lightning flashed, and the void was ruthlessly torn open, and an incomparably dark crack appeared. Wherever it passed, nothing could stop it. In an instant, it arrived in front of Lin Xian and fiercely blasted down. Boom! Lin Xian's pupils shrank because this speed was too fast, not even slower than his heavenly dragon's 8 steps. It was impossible for him to leave now, so he could only resist. The dragon sword domain quickly emerged, and countless sword chi interweaved in front of him, forming a 100-meter-tall azure dragon divine shield. An azure dragon was coiled on the shield, looking as if it was alive. Not only that, but he also used the great dragon sword soul to cut a vacuum around him. He used it to devour the powerful energy. Boom! The next moment, the two collided, and a terrifying energy swept out in all directions. The entire sky was instantly shrouded in endless light. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The surrounding kings kept retreating, and at the same time, their eyes flickered as they stared ahead. They wanted to know if Lin Xian had been killed. That boy is definitely dead. This is all the power of the clone. It's definitely enough to kill him. Damn boy, how dare you be so arrogant and provoke our all-beginning holy land? Now you know how powerful we are. Cold laughter rang out one after another. Obviously, they thought that this power was enough to kill the other party. Chapter 1816. Sneers could be heard from all around. Obviously, they thought that this power was enough to kill the other party. The violent explosion continued, and the entire space shook as if it would shatter at any time. Everyone stared into the distance, waiting for the final result, but soon they were dumbfounded, and there was even a strong sense of horror in their eyes. This was because Lin Xian's figure had appeared. Not only that, but he was unscathed and unharmed. He was surrounded by terrifying space cracks, and in front of him was a huge azure dragon's sacred shield. It blocked all the attacks. How could this be? He's fine. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. One had to know that the attack just now was extremely terrifying. Probably not many people below the Almighties could resist it. Even if they could resist it, they would definitely be seriously injured. But now, not only did the other party withstand it, but he was also unscathed. They couldn't believe it at all. Humph! Lin Xian glanced around, and then a gust of wind blew, pushing away all the surrounding dust. Run! Seeing this scene, the surrounding people quickly fled in all directions. They didn't dare to stay any longer, because none of them was a match for Lin Xian. If they stayed any longer, they would probably end up like the saint of all beginnings. However, at this time, the Crimson Dragon came out, and a formation directly enveloped the entire city. Want to run? It's not that easy. The terrifying formation flickered and blocked all of them. Rizalong, don't kill them. Just take away the resources and treasures on them, Lin Xian said in a deep voice. Then he ignored them and looked at the palaces in front of him. Although some of the palaces were destroyed in the battle, there were still many of them. In particular, the huge palace in front of him was shining brightly. It was as if the immortal palace was where the saint of all beginnings used to cultivate. He had to admit that the other party was too careful, only sending a doppelganger. Moreover, what surprised Lin Xian was that the other party must have cultivated some kind of incredible cultivation technique. The strength of the doppelganger would increase greatly, and so would the strength of the body. That was why he sent a doppelganger to cultivate. I wonder what treasures there are in there. Lin Xian's heart was filled with anticipation. With a flicker, he arrived at the palace. Then he waved his hand, and all the doors opened. The hall was very quiet, and there was even a mist surrounding it, emitting a fragrant scent. This is ambergris. Lin Xian was shocked. This was no ordinary incense. It was refined from the body fluid of a peerless demon king, and it had incomparably miraculous effects. When a king realm cultivator was cultivating, they could light one up to increase their cultivation speed and achieve twice the results with half the effort. This kind of incense was very magical and very precious. He didn't expect the saintess of all beginnings to have it. She was indeed worthy of being the holy maiden of a peerless holy land. It seemed like she was truly wealthy. Lin Xian didn't hold back. He took a deep breath and instantly inhaled all the fragrance around him. He could feel the spiritual energy in his body boiling like boiling water. The next moment he strode forward. There, he found countless supreme grade substandard god crystals. There was even a fist-sized god crystal at the center. It is indeed a good item. Could it be that she is willing to send an avatar to cultivate? Lin Xian was shocked. God crystals were definitely an excellent cultivation resource for a king realm cultivator. Even supreme experts would be envious of them. Ordinary kings didn't have such resources. Only the holy sons and holy maidens of peerless holy lands could enjoy such treatment. He didn't hold back. His figure flickered, and he arrived in front of the god crystal and sat down cross-legged. He held the god crystal and quickly circulated the immortality art, absorbing the pure energy within. His body shone with incomparable radiance, forming vortexes one after another. He absorbed all the surrounding spiritual energy and the fragrance of the ambergris. As for the task of cleaning up the battlefield outside, it was left to the Crimson Dragon. With the Crimson Dragon's strength and the assistance of the array, it was able to easily trap everyone. However, the Crimson Dragon didn't kill these people. Instead, it took away their storage rings. Then it gave them a good beating. Then he picked out some energy from these storage rings and began to cultivate. The entire city was still sealed by the array, so the All Beginnings Holy Lands cultivators couldn't send out any news. The people outside also didn't know about the shocking changes that had taken place inside. Just like this, half a month passed. Lin Xian went from one palace to another, sweeping away all the energy within. It had to be said that this was really too rich. This was definitely not an ordinary place because there were too many treasures here. It was hard to believe. In fact, Lin Xian's guess was right. This was indeed not an ordinary place. This was a training ground that the All Beginnings Holy Land had prepared to reward the Holy Maiden of All Beginnings. The purpose was to let the newly promoted Holy Maiden of All Beginnings increase her cultivation and consolidate her strength. However, they didn't expect that the Holy Maiden of All Beginnings would send out a clone, and that clone would be killed. This allowed Lin Xian to benefit. Boom! The huge palace trembled, and a sky-high spiritual energy fluctuation soared into the sky, piercing through the clouds and rapidly spreading. Along with it came a terrifying aura that overflowed into the heavens. Inside the palace, Lin Xian's body bloomed with light. Then he slowly opened his eyes, and his entire body became incomparably powerful. I broke through to become a 5-star king. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up into a smile. Under normal circumstances, even if he had many means, he wouldn't be able to break through to become a 5-star king so easily. But now, there were too many treasures here. He had absorbed these treasures, and with the effect of the Dragon Rock incense, he had broken through to the 5-star king realm. He had become a 5-star king in advance. His strength had undergone earth-shaking changes. Now, his strength had definitely reached the level of a holy sun. Among the younger generation of the Eastern Wilderness, he was one of the peak existences. Outside, the Crimson Dragon was also howling excitedly because he had also broken through. After robbing so many kings' storage rings, he had obtained abundant energy and finally broken through to become a 5-star king. Now, he was one step closer to returning to his peak state. Lin Xian looked at the Crimson Dragon, and the smile on his face grew wider. He knew that the Crimson Dragon's strength would be of great help to him. After spending these days together, he also knew some of the Crimson Dragon's past. Previously, the Crimson Dragon was an almighty at his peak state. Now that he had become a 5-star king, he was not far from the peak of the almighty level. He believed that in the near future, the Crimson Dragon would be able to break through again. If the Crimson Dragon recovered to its peak state and became an almighty, then he would have a powerful ally. At least when facing other almighties, he would have the confidence to face them. Kid, what should we do with the rest of them? The Crimson Dragon flew over. Lin Xian's eyes flickered, but he didn't answer. Instead, he woke Lu Mingyue up from the black earth and pulled her out. Chapter 1817. Lu Mingyue's temperament was still outstanding. However, her complexion was somewhat pale. Because of the previous pursuit, she had suffered a serious blow. Of course, this blow was mainly psychological. She had never expected that the All Beginnings Holy Land would chase after her. Lin Xian looked at her and slowly said, "I'll leave those people from the All Beginnings Holy Land to you. You can do as you see fit." "What? Leave them to me?" Lu Mingyue was stunned. She didn't dare to believe what she had just heard. "Are you sure you're not joking? Leave them to me?" Lu Mingyue asked again. Lin Xian indifferently said, "Of course I'm not joking. Since the All Beginnings Holy Land is also chasing after you, we're now on the same boat. Thus, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with leaving those people to you to deal with." "Are you not afraid that I'll release them?" Lu Mingyue asked again. "That's your problem. It has nothing to do with me." Lin Xian shrugged his shoulders, appearing as if he didn't care at all. To tell the truth, he really didn't care about those people. Moreover, he had other objectives. The next moment, he continued, "Are you willing to be chased by the All Beginnings Holy Land? Don't you want to change the situation?" "Change?" Lu Mingyue sighed. Her complexion was extremely unsightly. "You're not a disciple of a holy land. You don't know how terrifying the background of a peerless holy land is. Not to mention that you only have the strength of a holy sun. Even if you were an exceptional expert, you wouldn't be able to shake a holy land. Only if a true holy sun was revived might you be able to do it. It's simply impossible for others." Hearing those words, Lin Xian was shocked. It seemed that every single peerless holy land was an incomparably terrifying existence. But soon he shook his head and said, "You're overthinking things. I'm not asking you to retaliate against the All Beginnings Holy Land. What I mean is, do you want to regain your status as the saintess of all beginnings?" "Regain my status as the saintess of all beginnings?" Hearing those words, Lu Mingyue was stunned. Disbelief appeared in her eyes. She truly didn't expect Lin Xian to say such a thing. "What? Are you surprised?" Lin Xian asked, very surprised. "Are you sure you're not joking with me? You really want me to become the saintess of all beginnings?" "Of course," Lin Xian said with a smile. "At least you becoming the saintess of all beginnings is not the worst result for me. In fact, it is of great benefit to me. You want me to help you?" Lu Mingyue instantly understood what Lin Xian meant. "That's right. What do you want me to do?" Lu Mingyue asked again. "I'm not sure yet. Just like back in the Tilted Moon Profound World, I just wanted to form an alliance with you. When I'm in danger and need help, I'll naturally come to you. And as a reward, I will make you the saintess of all beginnings." "You trust me that much? Aren't you afraid that I'll betray you?" Lu Mingyue raised the most crucial question. Lin Xian's expression also became extremely solemn. He said coldly, "Believe me, if I can make you the Holy Maiden, I can definitely pull you down. So it's best if you don't betray our alliance." Hearing this, Lu Mingyue nodded and took a deep breath. "How confident are you that you can make me the saintess? That will depend on how many people in the All Beginnings Holy Land can support you. What I can do is eliminate the current saintess of all beginnings and let you return to the All Beginnings Holy Land. As for whether you can use your influence to make those people support you after you return, I can't help you with this." Lu Mingyue understood. Indeed, this was a matter of the All Beginnings Holy Land. Lin Xian was a loose cultivator and couldn't help at all. However, just the fact that Lin Xian could kill the saintess of all beginnings was enough to move Lu Mingyue's heart. One had to know that killing a saintess was an extremely difficult matter. The saintess of all beginnings was very strong and stood at the peak of the younger generation. She also had countless guards and experts by her side. There were even experts hibernating in the dark to protect her. Therefore, if Lin Xian didn't make a move, Lu Mingyue wouldn't be able to kill the saintess of all beginnings by herself. In fact, she wouldn't even be able to contend against the other party. "Don't worry. As long as you can kill the saintess of all beginnings and let me return to the all beginnings holy land, I have confidence in what will happen next. Lu Mingyue wasn't lying about this. It was impossible for such a large and peerless holy land to be harmonious internally. It was definitely divided into many factions. The faction she belonged to and the faction the saintess of all beginnings belonged to were two different factions. Moreover, there was usually friction between them, and their relationship wasn't good. Therefore, if she could return with her influence and strength, she would definitely be able to obtain the support of the experts in her faction. Of course, the premise of all this was that Lin Xian could kill the saintess of all beginnings. All right, it's settled then. Lin Xian raised his hand and high-fived Lu Mingyue 3 times, forming an alliance. Now, can you undo the seal in my body? Lu Mingyue asked immediately after the alliance was formed. Of course, Lin Xian smiled. Then his fingers kept moving, sending runes into Lu Mingyue's body. In the next moment, Lu Mingyue's expression became excited because she felt that the seal power was rapidly recovering. Soon Lin Xian removed all the seals and Lu Mingyue's power was quickly restored to its peak. However, she didn't know that Lin Xian had left a final restriction in her body. This restriction couldn't be detected even by a powerful expert. This was a restriction that Lin Xian had recently comprehended, and his technique was very strange. He did this not to go back on his word, but to prevent the other party from going back on her word. If the other party really became the saintess of all beginnings, and then brought countless experts to hunt him down, he would definitely be in trouble, although he had the strength to kill the other party again. But he didn't want that to happen. Therefore, he left a final life-saving measure, which was to place a mysterious restriction in the other party's body. If Lu Mingyue abided by the alliance and didn't attack him, then this restriction might not be used in his lifetime. And if the other party really wanted to betray him, then he would let the other party know how powerful he was. Lu Mingyue wasn't stupid. When she learned that her power had been restored, she immediately launched a thorough search. He searched his body from the inside out. In the end, she didn't find any restrictions, so she breathed a sigh of relief. Of course, there was a restriction left in her body, but it was so magical that Lu Mingyue couldn't detect it at all. What are you going to do next? Lu Mingyue asked. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. I killed a clone of the saintess of all beginnings a few days ago. I think it will definitely make her furious. But at the same time, she will be very careful and won't show up easily. So I have to find something that can provoke her more, so that I can lure her out. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.